Hey, welcome, buddy, to the Sunday show. Hopefully, we got some audio levels worked out here. I've been playing around with them a little bit, trying to get the best result from my mic as opposed to the people in the Hangout and other things. So, in the live feed, let me know if the audio is going to be okay. Here's my mic check. Hello. And we'll have Richard do a mic check for the people inside here so everybody's kind of at the same level. Because, like I said, I've been changing things a little bit. Hopefully, we won't have any buffering problems and kind of go for there. So, Richard, give him an audio check and let the live chat see if they can actually hear you, please.
All right. Can you guys hear me? How do I sound?
I think you sound wonderful. Just
Uh,
simply
You sound so
they're
good.
probably just
outstanding.
going to insult me though.
I'm not going to insult you today. I'm going to
Yeah.
be nice today, actually.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I know it's rare. Actually, I'm thinking for the New Year's, I'm wondering if I should like take a softer, kinder, gentler
Don't do it.
approach.
Don't do it.
You don't think
No.
so?
I'm
I'm having
actually
iffy.
against
Yeah,
that.
I'm kind of iffy on it either way.
Well, no, the reason the reason I'm against that isn't because I think you shouldn't change your approach or anything like that. It's just that I don't think people should use the new year as an excuse to start over because all the conditions from the previous year are still there. So for people to say, "Oh, I'm going to change because it's a new year," it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, I disagree in some ways. It's basically, look at here's a day that you can just say, hey, I'm going to from this day forward do this, and I don't find anything wrong
We'll
with
do
that
it
because
tomorrow.
look at. I mean, I quit smoking on December 5th, right? It was just a day that I picked randomly because of circumstances.
hmm
It's going on 2 years now, right? It'll be 2 years this December 5th, which by the way I'll have a hangout for, which we'll all have a cigar or something. No, I'm just kidding. But
No, no,
no, I
Steve,
don't have a problem with New
don't
Year's.
backslide. I
Yeah,
did that
backslide. No,
after two and a
I've been
half
good. I
years.
have not had a puff in 2 years. Seriously,
Yeah,
not even a toke. You know, but I think it's fine for a date is to say, look at what I'm going to do it this day, and if it works, great, and if you don't hold to it, whatever. But
hmm
I don't know. We'll see if I take a kinder, gentler, nicer approach to things. I don't know why I need to. I think it's been working so far, and I treat people pretty fairly for the most part. So. But that's not the topic of the hangout. The topic today is our favorite person in the entire world. Druss, who's our favorite person ever? Druss?
we just lost you on audio, Steve.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Jesus?
Can you
Now
hear
you're
me?
back.
Damn, that was like at the perfect moment too. It was like you're
Wait,
right there at the introduction.
you can't hear me?
We can
We
now.
can hear you now. We can hear
Oh,
you now.
well, okay. Druss, so who's our favorite person that we'd be talking about?
I believe it's Darwin's
It
Deity.
is Darwin's Deity. Yeah, it's not Ronnie. It's not G-Man. Nope. It is. Oh, people are in their life feed going, Steve's too nice. Yeah, we're okay. I don't get that very often. But yeah, no, it's Darwin's for some reason is the quintessential, in my opinion, the quintessential. What's the word I
Douchebag?
want to use here? I want to be choice here. Troll.
Troll.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's a douchebag. That would have been good.
Steve Bowden, by the way, in the live chat, I've sent you a message to join. So if you want to join us, because what this actually came from was yesterday. Steve Bowden, who's in the live chat, had a discussion with G-Man where Darwin's Deity popped his head out of Discord, out of the cesspool that is Krillism or whatever Discord he's hanging into now. I think it's taken into the alt-right, KKK,
He's
neo-Nazis hangouts or something like that.
he's on the
Yes.
far alt right servers. He's
Yeah,
on about
yeah.
four of
Because
them.
I guess he feels safe there. I don't know. But he popped his head out
Yeah, you
and
found the
he was
perfect
in.
place for him.
It's a perfect place for him. And he came into G-Man's hangout and basically he was running similar arguments to what he always has. Only this one's a little bit more nuanced than most. And I don't know if Steve was really getting it, but I want to kind of start at the basics of what Darwin's argument originally was and how it's kind of changed. Steve asked where you're going to find the message. It's the same message you sent me on YouTube. I just responded to that, Steve. So if you go to your YouTube messages on your message inbox, you'll find it there.
Or you go to your email. Go to the email link to
Email,
your
yeah.
YouTube account.
Yeah, Gmail, email should take you there.
So go to the email link to your YouTube account, and it'll be the top message there.
Yep, exactly. So, if you guys remember, and I'm pretty sure that Immortal Army remembers, back in the day, Darwin's Deity and Matt Slick, I think both of them, kind of had this weird thing that they think that inductive inferences is begging the question or circular. And why is it? Why is this on Richard? Richard, why is it showing you? Are you presenting?
No.
It's not going off of you for some reason. This is weird. Hmm. No, even when muted, it's still on you.
Can, can you define inductive reasoning for everyone first?
Yeah, and okay, there's two types of reasoning really. There's inductive and deductive. Deductive reasoning doesn't really give you any more information. It just takes what you know and formulates a conclusion from premises. And if the premises are true, then you have a sound argument. If your logical structure is valid, then you have a valid argument. So basically, to have a deductive argument be good, you need to have both validity and soundness. And validity goes to the logical structure, and soundness goes to the the premises being true. Inductively, the conclusions don't necessarily have to be completely true. Okay. In other words, this is when we talk about the problem of induction, Hume's problem of induction, is that what Darwin thinks, for some strange reason, he's under this weird impression that inductive reasoning is begging the question, because he's not understanding that it's not the induction that's begging the question. It's using induction to justify using induction, right? So there's two types. There's two ways you can justify these. You can justify deductively or inductively, and I don't know of any way to do it deductively. If you guys want to give it a shot, go ahead. I don't think you can do it deductively. It wouldn't make any sense to do so. But inductively, that is begging the question, obviously, and that's what Darwin tries to ask people. And then when they can't answer it, he presupposes God is that some kind of explanation to get around the fact that it's pretty well. It's difficult to justify inductive reasoning, according to Hume, and I think you might be right on that. But what do you want to add, Russ? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to just sort of dumb it down a bit, because that's a great way of saying it. But for me, and that when that kind of stuff used to be said to me before, it used to go in my head until I understood it. So what he's basically saying is, because you cannot be absolutely certain of something, because there is some degree of doubt in everything we have, even though, we make certain assumptions about the world, like the world exists, other minds are in it, we can communicate with each other. Now, if you think about proving that, it's actually really difficult to say that you are in reality as we perceive it, because it is assumption that it is real. But it's the only thing we have, so that's kind of what we run with.
Yeah, and it also goes to the fact that Darwin loves Hume's uniformity of nature, right? And the uniformity of nature basically says that what we observe now will continue to be the same. So in the future, it'll be the same as it is in the present, and in the past, which is an assumption we make. And because that's an assumption, we can't actually say for certainty. And Hume argues, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is an area that I don't get into that much. But
sorry, you just got to read Trevor Lund's piece when it comes up, because that is bloody funny.
Okay, one sec.
The
way I understand it is Hume argues there's no good reason to accept induction for future experiences any more than any other. For example, if I say that I'm going to say the sun's going to rise tomorrow because I've seen it rise every other day, is no more valid to say that I'm going to see tulips popping up everywhere magically, right? He doesn't think induction is a good argument. Is that how I'm reading it?
Yeah, I mean, the example I kind of used when I was describing it to a friend, it's like saying, hey, I have two ducks. I have two ducks and an egg. Is it unreasonable to assume that a duck produced the egg?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a problem. I don't think induction is a problem. We use induction all the time, especially in science. I think induction is a great form of figuring things out. And as Trevor Lund says, philosophical deduct tape and induct tape will hold an argument together. And I think there's some validity to that. Darwin's Deity tries to put this epistemic quandary into people about how we know things, right? And he tries to say, look, induction, because of Hume's problem of induction, he thinks that means that induction is never valid of any kind. I mean, as I understand it, induction has something called, what's the thing? What's the two things that go to induction? Help me out, Dress. It's validity and soundness for deduction, but for induction has two other things. They call it strength and something with a C. I'm brain fart. It's strength and weak. It's strength and weak of the argument, and then it's something else. I can't remember. It's relating to sound. The inductive version of sound, and I'm just drawing a blank for some reason. Anybody? Okay, well, somebody in the live feed chat. It starts with a C, and for some reason, I'm just drawing a blank. I can't. It's not clarity. It's. Never mind. It's been so long. But anyways, so what Darwin's Deity does is he goes to people like Steve Bowman, who seems to kind of know what he's doing, but he just runs this argument on him that that he thinks that because her history is coming in now, because that we don't have a way to justify induction, you can't use induction. And he also argues that we have no way to know what causality is. In other words, we can't use experience to say A causes B. He says, he asks, how can you know there's causal relations between events? I mean, you're just basing that on prior
Conclusions.
experience.
That's right. I should have stuck with it. Sorry, it is
Yeah, go ahead.
conclusions.
Yeah, he's asking how we know there's causation in something, right? And he's just saying you're basing that on prior events, which obviously is inductive and obviously appeals to the presupposition of.
He's actually told me that you can use personal experience to to conclude like specific instances of causation, but you can't use experience to conclude that we live in a causal reality, like.
So in your universe, does everything happen by chance? Was that the line?
He actually suggested that, for example, I made the argument that because we know that we can reason, cannot exist without causality. Our brains wouldn't function. And he dared to suggest that brain states could be randomized from one moment to the next, and that would be masquerading as reason.
Well, doesn't Hume,
which
correct me if I'm wrong, Hume argues that there is really no such thing as causality?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not well versed in philosophy. I felt that I should get in there because there was this room where people were talking about atheists, and there was no atheist present, and I just felt that was wrong. And I'm open about it. I can talk a lot about many subjects, but philosophy, I'm not a natural.
And that's why I think Darwin seeks people out like that, right? And by the way, this room holds 25 people. Anybody can come in. We're not full, FYI. So but Alex, I think he says he can't join now. But yeah.
Well, I'd like to hear if you guys can tell me how to improve how this conversation with Deputy Dog.
The easiest solution to that is don't talk to him.
Yes, the best way is not to talk.
I'm not even
engage.
exaggerating.
Do
I am not
engage.
exaggerating here. Talking to Darwin's Deity is a complete and utter waste of time. He's a sophist. All he wants to do is make people look bad. He doesn't care about the arguments. He doesn't care if they're honest inquiry. He is after one thing. He wants to make somebody look bad. That's it. I mean, that's why he asks questions that have no answer to it, right? I mean, the problem of induction is a problem for a reason. And he posits a God as a solution. But then when he asks somebody, okay, Steve, how do you justify using induction? You can't use deductive reasoning because I don't know how you would have a deductive argument for that, but you can't use induction because that's circular, which he is right on that. So maybe there isn't a way to justify it.
I did a bit of fun because what I said to him was, as we ruled things out, I would say to him, well, since we've ruled out evidence can't solve this problem, and reason can't solve this problem, and the factor of time too, as illustrating causality, can't solve this problem, I cannot answer your question to your satisfaction.
Which is basically
and I just
correct.
left it. And he really did not like that, and I thought that was very funny.
Did he call you a troll?
Well, because he thinks if you can't answer a question, you're automatically losing, right?
No.
I mean, if he asks, how do you know?
Hey, I can't answer every question.
Well, some questions aren't answerable. If I ask you what causal connections between events are, I don't know how somebody would answer that. I don't know if there is a way to really
prove it.
Really
well, the thing is, he said justify. How does one justify something instead of proving it?
There are different ways of justifying
things. That's him
playing
semantics on words, and what you'll find is he'll flip-flop on the meaning of words.
Oh, God.
He won't be consistent on how he uses them. So I had a good argument with him once when I don't learn I actually granted all his premises and said, okay, I can grant you this, I can grant you that, but how does this get you to the Christian God? What you've described is a God.
Yeah, Steve, the way he runs this is basically what he's saying is, the atheist doesn't have an answer to these questions, but I do. My God has been there from the beginning. My God observes everything. My God can justify these things because he has told us, in whatever way Darwin wants to say the mechanism is that God told him this, that the uniform of nature holds. But that to me doesn't fly. How do you know in the mind of God that God's not going to change the uniformity of nature at any time, or anything that we have an inductive argument for? One thing God could hold it for, and another thing God can change. How do we know?
Yes, or maybe his knowledge of God is just the result of a random brain state.
Well, that could be too. I mean,
So,
but you see his argument? His argument is that God knows everything, so God can be the grounding mechanism by which you can justify induction, even though he used to argue, just like I think Slick did, that induction is circular, which I don't understand at all. But he actually posits God as a solution. But then you ask Darwin's, well, how do you know that God won't change these things? And he just takes his word for it.
Well, Steve, one thing.
He does. Sorry, I just want to say by denying anybody anything that's a priori. That there's no a priori with DD.
Right. He doesn't. I don't think he likes a priori either. But I mean, that's the same reason why you can't have a deductive argument for a justification for induction, because certain things we don't know a priori. You know, I have to have some experience in order to know from past experience. Right. I can't make a deductive argument with no a priori experience for something.
One thing I do want to say is that I think Darwin does use an inductive argument, but I think sometimes he's just making a simple abductive argument to try to make his point. He'll start with the conclusion that God, because in his rationale or reasoning, the first thing he'll state is that, we have these laws of absolutes, we have all this, and then he resolves that by saying the only way you can resolve this is with the God. So he's assuming this conclusion and these facts that we observe point to this particular conclusion and only this conclusion.
But it doesn't resolve.
But to do that, you need to borrow from his Christian worldview.
But
that's why he says that.
His version of a God does not resolve the problem.
No.
Because he still has to presuppose that God is telling him the truth. He's has to presuppose that God's not going to change something. He doesn't know one good inductive argument from one bad inductive argument. I mean, it doesn't get around the problem. You're just saying, I suppose a God that doesn't lie and that's telling me the truth and has the uniformity of nature holds. Well, that's not an argument to me. That's just using it.
Sometimes just to be clear, I think even with abductive arguments, sometimes the conclusion may be reasonable, but it's not. But it doesn't have to be true. Like for instance, I think they use the example: if me and you have stomach aches in the morning. And then I conclude, well, it's because we ate bad sushi the night before. That may, you could have a totally different reason why your stomach ache than mine's ache. But I think we've made a conclusion that this is the most likely cause.
Yeah,
and
there's nothing wrong with induction.
That's Darwin's argument. His argument is this is the likely cause for these particular events based on this situation we find ourselves in.
Well,
there was a brilliant hangout on MK's channel with DD back in the early days. An Ocean just tore him apart with this argument where DD was trying to say, well, no, you can't justify that with your God. He said, no, well, my God isn't all powerful, but he is the most powerful at this. He has aspects of dominance. And that just totally screws arguments.
Do you think Darwin's changes? I mean, every time I hear him running argument, it's a little bit different.
Oh, he's very good at sort of just sidestepping, but it's this careful use of what he does is he makes sure he denies anybody any sort of foundational belief. All foundational beliefs to him must be justified. Therefore, justifying them begs the question because you're justifying it with with the argument that you're using. So that's what he tries to get the trap he tries to drop you into. That is the base premise of his trap. Once he's got you there, then he can take you basically down the line of, therefore it must be the Christian God.
Oh, Irish, actually, that's why I must have gotten so upset.
The first GDC hangout I hosted was actually on presuppositional apologetics, and the central point that I was trying to drive home was that you can grant every single aspect of presuppositional apologetics. You can say that, you can even grant that God, the Christian God, is the only possible solution to the problem of induction, but that still wouldn't prove that God exists. So that would be my main problem with this approach. You can grant all of it, but it doesn't prove anything.
Well, according to Darwin's, it seems to.
The trouble with Darwin is what you're doing is you're saying, therefore I can ground my inductive argument. Therefore, my inductive argument, the premise is good and valid. The conclusion is good and valid. Therefore, it must be right.
Well, just because you theoretically, just because you can do something doesn't make it right, and I don't think that even he can justify positing God there that solves the problem. Because again, you can't know that God's not going to change things.
Arbiter, and how can you judge God?
Well, I think
that's very good.
I think
that's that argument that uses that.
I think as a presuppositionalist, I don't know if he would say God is my conclusion or I'm going to posit God or anything like that. The way that they will usually say it is that I'm starting with God or something like that, and because I have that starting place, then I can justify everything else in the world. But any other starting place you have, you can't justify anything. And like I said, the problem with that is even if that's the case, that doesn't prove that it's true.
Yeah, so it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm. But when I say he's making an abductive argument, you've just brilliantly explained why I think Darwin's Deity's argument is not
I don't
really
think it's an abductive argument,
but it's abductive.
I don't think so, because the way I understand abductive is based upon prior experience. He has no prior experience with God.
Well,
I don't like abductive arguments that end up with being God as an explanation.
Us being alive, the laws of nature. I think that's what he's trying to really say that he's more reason. His conclusion is more reasonable than yours because you can't.
But to make an abductive
from the starting point.
But to make an abductive argument, like Ronnie makes an abductive argument that intelligent design, when he sees something like turbines, the most likely explanation is intelligence. Even he doesn't get to God from there, and he knows it because. How do you have an abductive argument that posits God as an explanation when you've never seen God as an explanation for anything? There's no prior experience for that.
Yeah, we don't have examples of God creating living cells, and biological systems are irreducibly complex. So
the most you can get to is intelligence at that point. You don't get to God.
And Steve, this is a quick funny. You should really get a real picture of ATP synthase, stick it on a Christmas card, and send it to him.
Send it to him.
Like, in my experience, like every example of intelligence that I've seen, is a material agent with a body. I've never seen like an immaterial spirit design anything.
No, never. Steve wants to know about properly basic beliefs.
He wanted to talk about that as well.
Do you want to know about properly basic beliefs? I'm a foundationalist, so I have properly basic beliefs.
Oh, okay. Can you sort of sort me out as to where that fits in with presuppositional apologetics?
Yeah, basically, in a nutshell, properly basic belief is something that's axiomatic, that's taken almost like a brute fact or a brute fact that we build an epistemic framework from. So we can say, okay, I'm taking these things as a presupposition or an axiom that the universe exists, and then I can build knowledge from them. That would be foundationalism. And then you have other things like coherentism and foundherentism. You have reformed epistemology, infantism, and a few other weird ones. But basically, properly basic belief, to be properly basic, I think it was Ozzy that had like 6 things that he came up with. And I don't have them at my fingertips.
It has to be necessary. I know that.
Well, it has to be necessary to all people. I know one of them is that. Is that basically we all have to have certain things in common, and one of which all of us have to agree at some point that the universe is real, or at least is something. I mean, if you don't assume the universe is real, where can you build an epistemic framework from? How do you get knowledge if you don't think it's real?
I've heard certain philosophers say that they're grounded on our either our sense experience or intellectual experience, or both.
Well, I mean, obviously we sense the universe, right?
Fun.
Yeah, the trouble going down that route is then you will have an argument, especially in presuppositional, which is, but there are people in the world that don't function properly. There are people in the world that, they go down basically the soft solipsism.
Yeah, the reliabilism of your senses kind of thing, right?
Yeah, you can't believe your senses, therefore you don't know anything's real.
But that to me leads to epistemic nihilism, though.
I don't have a solution to what Darwin calls, how do you justify the basic reliability of your senses and your cognition? Yeah, I don't have a solution to that.
Somebody asked me why I took
I assume they work.
Someone asked me,
and you shouldn't have to either,
Someone asked me in live chat. They said, why do I take up foundationalism? Honestly, the reason why I take up foundationalism is because I just find it the easiest. I'm not gonna lie, it's just the easiest for me. Now, I think foundherentism probably is the way to go, but I don't understand it well enough to actually justify me being a foundherentist. right? Because I like Sokka's approach to coherentism. I understand the model, having this framework such that you have this web of beliefs, and when you have something that doesn't cohere with the rest of your web, you can just toss it aside. Unlike foundationalism, where you can't just toss aside your properly basic beliefs. And I think that the mixture between the two, the found-herentism, is probably a good way to go. But I can't understand it well enough to justify saying I'm a found-herentist. But I think a lot of people are kind of leaning that way nowadays. I mean, what do you guys? What do you fall into?
I kind of like, Socratic Pythagorean is much more my kind of stuff. I like the naturalism in that philosophy.
Yeah, but what do you fall into as far as your theory of knowledge?
There has to be an essence of foundationalism in pretty much any belief. You have to have a grounding to what you believe. So I have to accept that for me the universe is real, that knowledge is achievable, and knowledge is basically our attempt at understanding our experience in life and applying it to reality.
Didn't Hume argue? I mean, was it Hume who argued that knowledge is even something possible?
It was Douglas Hume that did.
It was Hume. Okay, so that's what I thought. See, I don't agree with that. I think we can know stuff, but I think you have to be obviously justified to say that you know it, and that's the thing. That's the game that DD plays, though. His way of getting in there and attacking that is, oh, you're not justified to say you know anything as an atheist unless you borrow from my Christian view. That's how he works that in there. I mean, that's his shtick. Which it doesn't even hold.
We never got that far in the conversation. He at one point just started babbling about that, but we never really got that far. But if we did, I would have insisted that it was Vishnu or Ganesh, the elephant-headed god.
Well, he would argue probably that those gods have not been there since the foundation, and that
and how does he know?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, he just posits his deity there. And as Richard said, even if that's the case, it doesn't get you that God exists.
No, not at all.
And Vishnu is much closer to modern cosmological science than the Christian God is. Day of Brahma, 4.6 billion years or something.
So the way that they resolve that, like other deities, would be to say that there are no, or rather there are internal contradictions or incoherencies within these theological systems, and theirs is the only one without any internal incoherencies. But again, that would take us back to the problem that even if you have a theological system without an internal, or that's completely coherent internally, that doesn't make it true.
I agree with that, and I don't know if there is a completely internal system that's perfect.
Well, I mean, you could conjure one up. You could make a theological system that doesn't make any evidential claims, for example.
Okay, fair enough. Well, but what's the point of that?
I mean, I'm actually a theist, and Darwin has been pecking away at me for about 2 years, trying to find out exactly what I believe and where I get my information from. And I'm a bastard, and I won't tell him.
Well, I mean, but see, Darwin doesn't like honest dialogue, right? I mean, we all love Ion's dialogue. We want to figure things out. We like discussing things. I like learning. I know a lot of people that like learning. Darwin's one, can't learn. He doesn't want to learn anything. And two, he has one goal, and that's it, to make the atheist look bad. And sometimes he succeeds in that, but but of course that's a dishonest approach to conversation. Right? That's why I don't have conversations with him any longer at all. When I would be in a hangout and Darwin's come in and Darwin would start engaging with me, I'm like, Darwin's not going to happen. And he would just like, oh, well, Steve's running. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to my hangout. And if you want to have a conversation, you want to come into my hangout, that's fine. But you know what? There's going to be other people there. And it's going to be a conversation. And you can't have honest conversation. He just can't.
Well, he made me a promise about 4 months ago that he would never ask me another question again. Which obviously he broke many times. So I'm trying to keep him honest by not actually answering now any of his questions.
But just between,
if you want to know about Darwin's deities, there's two things you need to know: Darwin's greatest hits, and Greg Bronson. That's it. Greg Bronson and Darwin's greatest hits, and you'll know DD 100%.
Well, like he just parrots. He just parrots Bonson. Yeah, it's Bonson, by the way. But he parrots Bonson, like literally. I mean, word for word, he parrots Bonson.
Darwin's greatest
And,
hit is this neat documentary series on, Darwin's Deity, and Greg Bonson is the source of, his apologetics.
And I mean verbatim, not even paraphrased.
Wow.
Verbatim.
Verbatim, man.
And if you want to know where Greg Bonson comes from, then read Van Til.
But see, I don't understand. I don't understand this. Look at
He actually made me go and read these bloody books.
Darwin's
Damn
Deity.
you, sir.
Darwin's Deity, between his inability to actually understand the material and his need to try to make people look bad, what's the point of engaging with him? I mean, I don't understand why anybody would ever engage with him. He is the most duplicitous, dishonest person I have ever seen in my entire freaking life. Without question, he's just, just so dishonest.
That's probably why he rotates through so many names so people don't know. Because he showed up in my show chat and under Darth Dawkins, and I had no idea who the fuck he was. So, he's in there. My show, like, we have predetermined guests, predetermined topics. It isn't the informal sort of hangout style where we invite all kinds of people in, right? It's a set format.
It's structured.
And he's in my chat going, yeah, it's structured. And he's in my chat going, the topic, I don't even remember what it was, but it had nothing to do with any of this. And he's like, what's your rational reasoning for believing in atheism? And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about, buddy. And he kept pushing, like, oh, bring me on the show and we'll talk about it. I said, my guests are predetermined. So unless we've talked about this beforehand, you're not coming on, buddy. Like, just no. I had no idea who the hell he was.
Because he's a one-trick
and then I
pony
laughed because I didn't know who he was. I said, oh, well, I belong to the great debate community. Maybe we can have a discussion over there. He's like, oh, that's a fucking terrible show. And I'm like, it's not a show.
It's a community. Well, see, but Darwin knows one that I don't really, prevent the Pow Talkers from coming in here by any means, and the Pow Talkers can destroy Darwin.
Yeah.
I mean, they know his arguments inside and out, and also everybody in here probably knows his arguments pretty well. So he knows if he comes in here, he's not going to get what he wants. He's not going to get the response that he wants, and I don't know. He's obviously not doing it for anybody else other than himself, because nobody pays much attention to him. Anybody who knows any of these topics knows he's a moron. So the only reason he does this is because he wants to feel better about himself by picking on other people.
As soon as he started with, what's your rational basis for believing in atheism? I'm like, oh, precept. You can smell that shit. But
it's not an unfair question to ask, but it's dishonest because it doesn't really matter to him. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit.
Well, it's dishonest because I know that's, excuse me, I know where he's going with that.
Right.
So if he was legitimately wanting to know that would be one thing. But I smelled a precept a mile away, and I know that he's just using that as a foot in the door to blabber his presuppositional crap.
Yeah, it's not the fact that he asks it; it's the fact that why does he ask it? He asks it because he wants to go down the precept route. Exactly.
I will give DD one thing. He's being less of a shit than he used to be. He's still a condescending person, but he's being a lot less
I haven't noticed
shitty.
any difference. I mean...
he was condescending because he's like, oh, if you have me on your show, you'll get more viewers instead of we had some, low number. And he's like, oh, well, I'll get you more viewers. And I'm like, do you think we do this for the views, buddy? Like, piss off.
Do you know what hermeneutics are? Oh, sorry.
Are those eunuchs named Herman?
Are we doing an internal or external critique?
I'm not saying a very... Oh, God.
Well, let me ask Steve, why did you decide to engage with him in the first place?
Version of the monsters in front of me.
Steve, have you not ran into Darwin's before, or was this your first thing with Darwin's? Because G-Man and Ronnie and Veckel all love Darwin's because all three of them don't know shit from Shinola. They are the dumbest people in the world when it comes to these topics.
My first interaction with them, I have seen debates with notably Cy-Ten Bergenkate before, and I thought nothing of it because the style doesn't actually lead anywhere. So I just didn't allow him to finish to answer for me, and that created this weird impasse. And I promised myself I wouldn't get angry, I wouldn't get upset, but I wouldn't hang up and I wouldn't stop. And so the whole conversation just went around in circles because it's circular reasoning, and I refused to play along. And then eventually G-Man called hot to it. But I was on his channel for 6 hours.
Wow.
And by the time it was over, I was pretty tired.
What I was hoping, and I only caught the last portion of it. I didn't watch the whole hangout. I watched literally like the last.
I don't
25
recommend
minutes.
watching
I'm not
6
going to
hours
go back
of
and
it.
watch
It's from
it. No.
it's filled with G-Man asking me about the Big Bang and having to explain that we don't know everything, and that doesn't mean we know nothing.
See, but what I would have done, Steve,
it was weird. But I went in there for a bit of fun, and that I didn't like all this nonsense being spouted about atheists.
yeah, what I would have done,
So,
is
without
this,
me-
Steve. Whenever you have a room like G-Man and Veckel and those guys, and they're just like
Yeah.
gushing over Darwin's deity, ask them, okay, could you explain to me Darwin's deity's argument? Ask Veckel or G-Man to explain to you what Darwin's deity is saying. You'll never get an answer. Veckel and G-Man have no idea what Darwin's is saying, but they're such yes men that they're just going to go, yeah, Darwin's is right on. And when Veckel has no clue, he just doesn't. And that's what you should have gone. You should have said, okay, you think Darwin's has a good argument. What is his argument? It would have been a laugh.
That is really interesting. I'll remember that. There's a lot to know.
They don't know. They don't know what
sorry,
they don't know
keep
what prob of induction is. They have no clue.
You know, it's funny because I had the same when I was when Antonio and Veckel, and I asked them, like Darwin had asked me a question, and I said, well, I don't know, but what about Antonio? Antonio, why don't you answer it? And they just were like stunned. They couldn't answer. And the answer Veckel gave, Darwin then had to come back and say, well, no, that's not really correct. This is the correct answer.
Yeah, he doesn't know, and Antonio Fletcher doesn't know. And by the way, this isn't anybody hating on Christians. I really get kind of when I see somebody in the live feed going, "Oh, this is bashing on Christians." No, I don't tolerate bashing on Christians. We have Christians in here. I tolerate bashing on stupid people. Okay, there's a huge difference.
Well, I tried to be very polite.
Stupid, arrogant, mean,
yeah, exactly.
condescending people.
Because Darwin's has one goal again to make people look dumb, and when he gets his shit pushed in, I'm all for that. It has absolutely nothing to do with Christians, and it's a shame that other Christians have to even be considered to be in the same category as them. Because somebody like Richard, who's a Christian, I have the utmost respect for. He's an honest person. He has honest dialogue. To even relate to him, to somebody on Darwin's deity level, is insult to Richard. So it has nothing to do with
But he may not be a
Christianity.
Christian. Darwin's may not consider him to be a Christian, though, because Christianity to him is a very narrow scope. Because I remember I was in a hangout where I was the only person atheist in there, and we had 9 other Christians, and he convinced them that they weren't true Christians. He was the one true Christian.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Richard. You're sorry, Richard. You're not a
problems.
Christian any longer. My bad.
Yep.
But yeah, and I've seen him do that as well. It's almost like the no true Scotsman fallacy.
Oh, it totally is.
In real life, and it's I just find it amazing. For me, it's nothing to do with his belief. It's nothing to do with the religion he professes to follow. I've got a lot of friends that are Christians, and I have absolutely no problem. I don't really judge people on race or on culture or on religion. I judge them on how they act.
Yeah, I do too. And Darwin's deity is a dishonest interlocutor. There's some legitimate arguments against atheists. Don't get me wrong. There's some legitimate arguments against firebrand militant atheists. I'm the first person to admit that. He doesn't have any. He has shit arguments. It's just designed to do one thing: confuse people. That's his goal. He wants to confuse you, and he thinks it makes you look bad. But you know what? If you want to have honest inquiry, all he has to do is, hey, Jack Ainstrike, come have a conversation with me on these topics, and Jack will run circles around him. So that's the point that I want to make is that people have to understand when Darwin's deity comes into a room, the hangout's effectively over at that point. I have a video that I put out about a year ago where Darwin's deity in 7 minutes destroyed an entire hangout. It was a masterful destruction.
Yikes!
If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a wonderful video of how he manipulates people in order to destroy a hangout.
Well, I would never have a pre-supper on in a sort of spontaneous way like that. Like if I was gonna plan for it, sure, I guess, because they're not really worth arguing with. But just some random preceptor, sure, come on, we'll have a time. No,
Preceptor's just about dead anymore. I mean, you don't find too many people doing it. I mean, obviously, Christian Hillbilly likes precept. I don't even see Wyatt Minkus doesn't even do precept anymore. Arcane Logos doesn't do precept anymore. He sucked at it so bad.
But you got to admit, when it first came out, it was hot like grits off the stove. It was on fire. Yeah. Everybody was trying to be the next preceptor.
Hey, but Arcane, you rock that flat Earth, man. You convince people like no one else on that. Red is running scared of you.
Well, honestly, man, if you take the Bible literally, I encourage you to believe in the flat Earth because that's what your book teaches.
I think there's an argument to be made there. I don't. Well, hang on. I don't think the Bible teaches that, but I think the people that wrote the Bible.
Yes, it does.
Hang on, no.
Yes,
it doesn't teach it.
Let's cut the crap.
Well, hang on. Let me finish my sentence. Okay. It's not that the Bible teaches. The Bible didn't say, "Hey, you have to believe in a flat Earth." Okay. What people back then had this model that was probably a flat Earth model. Right, but I don't think the Bible actually says you have to believe that the Earth is flat. It doesn't say anything like that.
Well, the only thing the Bible says you have to believe is that Jesus is the Son of God.
Well, there's other teachings in the Bible, I think.
That the Earth is flat, man, and I completely understand because it's another ancient Near Eastern religion, and these people didn't know better.
Yeah, no, it's consistent, right? I mean, if you say, look, it's consistent to be a flat earther if you're a hardcore fundamental Christian, I'm okay with that. I think that does follow, right? At least they're consistent. I'll give them that. Yeah. I think it's absolutely retarded, but it's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if the Bible was written by Aristophanes, an ancient Greek, who already knew that the Earth was round. No.
Nice pronunciation, by the way.
Aristophanes, yeah. But
I actually got it right. Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Aristophanes. But
Aristophanes.
Oh, you don't pronounce the last S?
No.
But
thanks.
But is flat Earth? Look, let's be realistic. Is flat Earth really that far from a position of somebody who believes that Jesus and pterodactyls live contemporaneously?
No.
Okay, then yeah, I don't think it's that inconsistent for somebody to say, look, I believe the Earth is 7,000 years old, and that dinosaurs and man walked the Earth 2,000 years ago.
Now you have me picturing Jesus flying around on a pterodactyl. Thanks.
Well, that's what Hovind and Ham promote.
If I could draw, I would so totally draw that.
Yeah, I mean, they do promote that dinosaurs coexisted with man, even, but they're not really mentioned in the Bible. I mean, some people say they are, but
they're not. There's no dinosaurs mentioned in the Bible.
Ones that they always quote as a kind of dinosaur-esque kind of beast. But I think it's more likely a crocodile.
No, Leviathan is a multi-headed beast that came out of ancient Near Eastern literature.
Oh, I'm talking about the behemoth that swallowed.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this.
Yeah, it was Leviathan. Yeah.
I'll tell you this, and this directly goes to Steve.
That's what I think you're thinking, which is the seven-headed.
I'll tell you this, and it goes to Steve. Yeah. When anybody starts making the argument that it's theist against atheist, I'm already done at that point. I'll tell you right here now. I have never liked this whole it's theist against atheist bullshit. I think it's divisive. It doesn't do anything to help the conversation. That's why I made my video on Welcome to the Great Debate Community. It's not about atheist versus Christian. It's about rational versus irrational. So when people start talking about atheism as some kind of dichotomy between theism and atheism, it drives me freaking nuts because nobody in here is advocating atheism, right? Nobody in here does that. Wow. I don't have a channel dedicated to atheists. That's probably why I don't have a big channel. Everybody else who's a firebrand atheist out there has 10,000 subscribers or more. Matter of fact,
except
you. Genetically modified skeptic just had his 10,000 thing the other day. Holy Kool-Aid has 30,000. Cosmic Skeptic has 100,000.
Yeah.
These people that are promoting atheism generally have bigger channels. Why Heretic Woman doesn't, I don't know. But
I don't know either.
My channel's not dedicated to atheism, so it has nothing to do with atheism, nor does it have anything to do with theism. I don't get it. Why they have to keep throwing that out there.
Because a lot of people think that you have to have the us versus them thing going on at all times.
You mean we can't cooperate and actually try and get a better understanding of each other's point of view to grow as people in the world?
Apparently not. I don't know. I'm about as firebrand as they come, but if somebody has, is going to treat me with respect and have a rational conversation, I'm all for that. I might not agree with you what you're saying, but I'll certainly listen.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's some conversation to be had about them. I do think atheism is growing. I think religion is actually getting smaller. I think people are actually going away from religion all over the world.
dying.
I mean, I looked at some numbers the other day, and even in the LDS Church, they were having back in the 80s, it was about a 7 or 8% growth rate. They're about 1 point something now. So even though it's still a positive thing on these churches, the growth rate is almost
and if you could
nominal.
imagine
It's almost
if they
flat.
didn't go around the world proselytizing, would they even have that?
Yeah, but it's the same thing for Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the same thing for other, even like the Catholics. The Catholic attendance has been going down for years, and when you start looking at the roles of who actually is a member of the church, that doesn't tell you actually who goes to the church, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't tell you who's really active in any of these churches, and I think that religion is going down universally. And again, I don't have a stake in that, but I think that if the end result is such that it gets creationism out of the school, then I don't have a problem with it, because my biggest concern is the lack of education that's going into some areas of the world, especially here in the United States, in the Deep South, that they're putting creationism as ahead of facts and the head of reality and the head of things. I think that's disgusting.
I've read that there are textbooks coming out of Texas that say Moses wrote part of the Constitution or something.
Yeah,
like
I've heard something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, no, it drives me crazy, because I mean, you have these people that I'm convinced that are con men. I mean, I am absolutely convinced without a doubt that Ken Hovind and Hammer con men. Yeah, and so the fact that people are buying into this,
and not even for money.
Oh, it's for money. No, I mean,
not even for money, just for more for the money, but the power and the prestige and the being able to put his up on the wall so everyone can see it.
Well, he's a narcissist.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Hovind is definitely a narcissist. But I mean, again, this is that's why I'm not big into these other channels that are promoting atheism. I don't think that's the solution. I think it's just yes, if everybody was an atheist, you're going to have these problems. I grant that, but that's not going to solve it right now. It's not going to solve the problem we have in the educational system. That has to go into more explaining the problems for these people with having this kind of mindset. And when you have people like Darwin's Deity and G-Man and Veckel and True Empiricism going around, and Tommy Hall, like I just watched Dragnot's channel with a little bit with Tommy Hall in it. Jesus Christ. I mean, did you listen to Tommy?
Yeah, he's one of the nice ones.
Oh, he's really nice. But did you listen to what he had to say about cancer? It was just mind-bogglingly stupid. As Fiona pointed out, it's potato, and yet these are some of the people that people are listening to, as if they're like putting out great information. And I think that's dangerous. Actually, I know it's dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. We just got to keep putting the spotlight on all the flaws, and that's all that's all atheism needs, really, to grow.
Yeah, I mean, if atheism if that's the reason. By the way, Tony, your mic is really bad. If that's the result, whatever, that's fine. Again, I don't think it's promoting I don't think the goal is to promote atheism. I think the goal is to promote critical thinking. But if somebody develops atheism out of that, I don't care. But if they develop theism out of it, I don't care either. I just don't care either way. As long as they stop having these shit things that they're promoting, like young Earth creationism.
Yeah. Well, it's like Tommy brought up this study on vitamin D. Well, not study, but an article on vitamin D. And I said, oh, look, at the bottom of this, there was a study that they were going to conduct with, 20,000 plus people. Do you know if there are any results? Because it was a 7-year-old article, so some of the results might have been published. And I thought, no, didn't know. Hadn't thought to check. It's this. The problem I have with the way a lot of these people do it, it's the amount of assumptions that they make. There are certain assumptions you make in life. Faith is one of those assumptions, and I don't sort of dodge that. But the whole thing with when you have the chance to have empirical evidence, that is the best source to make decisions from. Because it's tangible, it's provable, it's repeatable. We can go ahead and we can actually make stronger decisions that way than we can intuitively. And that's a lot about what skepticism and rational thinking is. It's, do I have enough proof or evidence to make a decision on?
Well,
and when it
scientifically
comes down to
speaking,
like
sure.
your life,
Yeah, in science especially.
But when it comes down to things like, do I take a vaccine or don't I? That's a matter of life. Do I inject myself with insulin or don't I? These are the type of things that this type of thinking affects. People make fucking stupid decisions.
And I think that term skepticism gets abused. I think it gets misused a lot. True skepticism is basically, they believe that knowledge is even possible. If you're a hardcore skepticist, but generally speaking, to be skeptical of things, fine, but that means to question things that you think are true, right? I mean, you should question things, and you should always constantly try to refine your positions. It doesn't mean to doubt something, but it means to question things. But I think a lot of atheists take that to the extreme when they say that they don't have beliefs. They're taking skepticism into epistemic nihilism and just saying, "Look, I don't have any knowledge. I can't know anything because I have no beliefs." Well, then really, that's stupid to me. I don't even understand how somebody can say that they say they don't have beliefs. Well, some of them will say, "I don't have beliefs and I have knowledge." Other people say, "Oh, I can't make the claim I have knowledge because I can never be for certain." They want Cartesian certainty, and I don't think that's possible.
No. And as my granny used to say,
I will say this. But even in response to what you just said, Steve, I believe that that your beliefs are compulsory. I think it's all situational and based on environment. And most of the people in the United States come from an environment that is religiously motivated, and those beliefs that they have are created from what they've learned in the past. It's trying to change the school system, for instance, to try to make these beliefs, to try to resist these beliefs, because that's what the real problem is. It's the people who are being born into this system, when they wake up and say, "I believe in God."
Yeah, I agree. I tend to follow a dosastic involuntarism. I think that we don't choose our beliefs. I think our beliefs kind of choose us, if I can use that kind of a expression. That we do have beliefs that I can't sit here and change my mind and say, "Look, I don't believe that I'm talking to people." I can't do that. It's just not in my ability to do so.
When people say, when did you choose to be an atheist? Like, I didn't. It just
convinced of a proposition.
Well, I think people don't choose to
my mind based. No, it's like I changed my mind based on the evidence. If I had to choose, I probably would have stayed a Christian. But evidence said otherwise. So how could I? You can choose to pretend that you are, or you can choose to ignore things, and you can choose to pretend that you still think a certain way.
If I could just jump in here, I just wanted to say good night. I wanted to thank you guys for inviting me.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
I wasn't able to fall asleep last night, so I'm running on empty.
No problem.
Well,
So,
to be honest,
thank you very much.
Drop by more often, Steve. Nice to have you around.
Marathon Man.
Thank you. Yeah, I am Dustin Hoffman.
Steve, Friendship's magic.
What? Midnight?
Good night.
Pardon me?
Well, no.
Good night.
Good night.
I then, for some reason, saw the Odessa Files with Laurence Olivier in it as Darth Dawkins. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a valid question to be asked to atheists. What is your justification for being an atheist? I think it's a fair question.
That's different than when did you choose, or
right, absolutely, a big, huge difference, right?
Yeah.
But I think there probably are some atheists that don't have proper justification for why they're an atheist. Same reason why I think G-Man's not properly justified to think the Earth is round. He doesn't have justification for it. Now, is he right? Yes. But I've listened to G-Man explain why the Earth is round. He doesn't understand why the Earth is round. He doesn't have any kind of justification to think that the Earth is round. He's that bad at it.
His justification is science, Steve. His justification is science. Believe the science. That's what
yeah. So G-Man appeals to science when it comes to the shape of the Earth.
With GMOs.
Yeah, he appeals to science and the shape of the Earth.
That is going to live in my head forever.
But he doesn't appeal to science when it comes to biology or GMOs, which he butchered to no end. I've never seen anything like that in my life. To a person who thinks that GMOs is equivalent to plumping and hormones. How do you get to that level of dumb?
I think he was born with it.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
But you have the people in the CCP go, oh, look, G-Man's really right on this. And then you ask any of them. I dare any of them to come in here and explain to me how GMOs have anything to do with plumping or feeding them hormones. Does any of them come in and explain it? Or, you know what, any of them come in. I sent this to Veckel. I sent this to G-Man. I'm like, you know what? Come in here and explain to us Darwin Deity's argument. Go ahead. Anyone. What?
The chickens up with GMOs.
Yeah,
when they put that brine.
Brine water, make it look like they're bigger, and it's called plumping. And G-Man thinks that's actually injecting them with GMOs, whatever the hell that means.
Oh my God! Because I know I think they're confusing the fact that they do increase some of the hormone production of the body through the genetics, but I think they're confusing that with them actually giving it to them orally.
Yeah, I think they confuse a lot of things. Yeah. But I gotta tell you,
about the antibiotics, the steroids, that kind of stuff that they do inject non-organic food with, which is right, but it's not GMO. That's a completely different thing, and he doesn't, and that's the problem.
But
the thing that really pisses me off. I've just got to get this off my chest with people like with Veckel and G-Man specifically, is knowledge-wise they are dumb, but they actually have bloody potential.
No,
they're not.
No, they do not. Idiots. No, they do not. I used to believe that. I was wrong.
A bad argument. I want to have hope for them.
Don't
really
give it up.
That,
don't have the hope. I was at that point years ago. I was wrong.
Yeah,
they do not have potential. I am adamantly sure that G-Man has no potential ever to learn anything about this stuff. Zero. Absolutely none.
No, there are plenty of people that you could have said that about, like, before they changed their mind. I don't know if Wayne will be insulted, but Wayne Fillmore would be one.
I never said that about Wayne. I've never said that about Wayne. Matter of fact, the reason I debated Wayne on Mac Revolution was the sole fact that I thought he could change his mind. That's why I did it. So no, I'm not. It's not the same thing. But I will say this. I mean this. G-Man, Veckel, and the rest of them do more for atheism than any firebrand atheist I can imagine. They turn people away left and right. I mean, even in the live chat, there's somebody trolling in the live chat. What the person trolling doesn't seem to realize is that if they want people to go to God, they're having the opposite effect. They're turning people away from God, because I am disgusted with these people to no end. I'm more and more I'm seeing just how dumb some of these theists actually are, and of course it's pushing me away from that, because I'm like, look, if God is just some all-powerful being that wants you to believe in him, why does he have such shit representatives?
Brett Keane. Wow, the king.
Yeah, and I'm not saying all of them are. I mean, Richard's a good representative. General Han Solo's a good representative. You have Jade, etc. But you know what? You guys are far and few between, Richard. That's the problem.
Maybe God doesn't want you guys to believe.
Well, that wouldn't make any sense. You would think that God wants everybody to believe, right? Because that's his.
Who said that?
Well, isn't that the whole Christian thing, that God tells people to believe and have faith?
I think that would be your. Well, the way that I would say is that God doesn't necessarily want everyone to believe or to come to faith. I think God chose some people to come to faith and others to be damned.
I've never heard of that before. That wouldn't make.
It's called Calvinism.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that too. I was like, that sounds exactly like Calvinism. You're part of the elect.
Steve, come on.
That's a really.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I think Calvinism is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I love Christian anarchists, but how he believes in Calvinism is almost as bad as believing in creationism.
It made sense to me when I was
on the same level when it comes to that. What's that?
But there's something that I tend to find that good Christians have in common, which is a lack of arrogance, a lack of certainty, a little bit of humility, and that's what most of the people that really have dumb, stupid, and very ignorant arguments lack.
Yeah.
But Trust, how do you have humility when you think that God has specially picked you as being elect? You can't justify why. You can't explain why. It's just something you know, and yet you don't think that those people have inherently an arrogant approach to everything. It's like, I know something you don't know. How is that any different than the arrogance that people have thinking the earth is flat, right? Because they're like, oh, I know something you don't know. It's they want to feel special. That's it. And if they have to believe something that's not true in order to do it, they seem fine with it, right?
They need to spend 2 months on a fishing trawler in the North Sea and they'll realize how small in the world they actually are.
And by the way, I
doubt many of them would do that.
Everybody, we don't have a phone quake. We can't have a. Well, actually, I guess you could have a phone quake. I don't know. Did people drop or?
Yeah, I just got back.
5 people at once. It must have been a phone.
Yeah, it looked like people dropped a few minutes ago.
They're having people that ask to get in. I'm not following my email right now, guys. So or Facebook. So if you, because I don't, my stream is perfect right now. It's not buffering. I don't want to like max out my CPU or anything. So if you want to come in, all you got to do is go to the G Plus forum, and the link to get in is at the G Plus forum, so you can come on in. But I would love to get the opposite side in here. I don't like having echo chambers, even though it's a Sunday show. But I'd love to get somebody to ask them questions. I would love to have one person come in and justify Darwin's Deity's line of questioning or explain his arguments. You know, but do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know. I've tried to get presuppositionalists in rooms like this before, and it never happens. One time I tried to set up a debate between presuppositionalists and evidentialists, like a debate about apologetic methodology between Christians. And the room was literally full of evidentialists. I had like 10 evidentialists, and no presuppositionalists would come. So that was kind of frustrating.
I've gotten presuppers before, but I'm really more asking for people that if they think Darwin's Deity has a good argument, I want them to come in and explain his argument. That I know his argument. I think it's bad. I think it's a really, really horrible argument that he has. I think he's way off base because, again, his initial argument is basically, boils down to that we can't use induction because it's circular because you're an atheist, which is so it's just ridiculous. But I want G-Man or Vector to come in and say, oh, this is what Darwin's arguing. They won't do it.
I mean, I could play the presuppositionalist if I had to, but that wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah, but no, I don't care about the presuppositionist. I want somebody to explain why they think Darwin's argument's good. That's what I want. How is Darwin's running a good argument?
Yeah, but isn't his argument just presuppositionalism?
No, his argument is twofold. One, his argument is that you can't use induction because he thinks it's circular, because he's not understanding it's the justification of induction that's the problem. And he thinks that there's no way to tell what causation is. Right? He thinks that the only way you're going to account for causation is that God did it. Is that because God causes all this stuff to happen. That's really what he was running with Steve the other day. How does A causation to be? How does A affect B? Well, God causes it to happen. That's what it boils down to. Because we don't know experientially why A causes B. I think again, wasn't Hume argues that there's no way to even say what causes something.
Thinking about it, seems like a take Aquinas' argument about the first mover, the first cause, the first mover, just modernized.
Right, because he thinks everything's a causal chain from that initial prime mover, right? That non-cause cause. And so there's a big old long causation chain that goes from there. But I think quantum mechanics craps all over that, but whatever. But when he posits his version of a deity to solve it, I want Veckel or G-Man to come in eventually one of these days and say, oh, this is why God solves that problem, because I don't see the solution there. Because you just run into the same exact issues. Anyways, what's going on in the live chat? I've kind of been neglecting everything here for a few seconds here. Anything of interest? I know we lost a lot of people because of the phone quake, and maybe I don't know why they can't get back in.
I was going to say, actually, with the whole sort of first cause prime mover thing, that's actually originally was an Aristotelian argument. It's way older than Aquinas.
But those are legit arguments that people make. I mean, those arguments have been around for a while. Darwin's arguments are not those types of arguments. Darwin's arguments are just, what the hell is he talking about arguments? And then because he confuses things so much, because I don't think he understands these topics as well as he thinks he does, he confuses other people. I mean, when I listen to Darwin's, I don't know what the hell he's saying half the time. It's not because I'm not that familiar with the topic. It's just that he's not. It's like listening to G-Man talk about biology or GMOs. It's like, what? I mean, does that make sense? It's just or listening to Ronnie talk about stuff. Between his word salad and his inability to understand these things, do you half the time understand what the hell Ronnie's saying? I don't. Did we lose Richard? I don't know what's going on with the connection issue, guys. It's people are just like having phone quake issues. I mean, no, he's not on the phone. Whichever wasn't on the phone, but. Anyways, so there goes another one.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
We're not getting sniped because this is not a snipeable hangout. So I don't know what's going on. Might have to wrap it up soon if people are just like having connection issues.
I'm fine.
Well, I don't know where else we can go with this topic. I think by now people realize that Darwin's Deity is just a joke. And my whole goal on this is to tell people, look don't engage with Darwin's. And if you have to, do it on a fair platform. Don't do it in G-Man's channel. Don't do it. Especially don't do it on Darwin's channel. I mean, you can. I mean, obviously do what the hell you want, but I just find no particular reason to go out of your way to go on those channels where you're just not going to get a fair interaction with them, right? So,
well, it's like trying to go on Eric Jewell's channel. Like I did once. No, actually, I never did agree to go on there because I watched it first.
Well, Eric Jewell and Jewell?
Yes.
Oh, I went on his channel once. That was he got so destroyed.
I watched that. It was ridiculous. But he does that to everybody. Like I went back when I first challenged him to a debate on my channel, which he never did. I went back through his library and I found one, and he'd had this woman on who was a theologian, and he actually got her to list all of her credentials at the beginning of the video. And she had like PhD and masters and had, she was an academic. And then he gets into his quote debate with her, and she would quote like a primary source. And he would come in, where's your evidence? And she's like, it's a primary source. And he's like, oh, well, I don't see it. So what's your evidence for that? It's like, come on.
Eric Jewell is just as bad as Darwin's in some ways. He's just dumb.
Oh, yeah.
He's so damn stupid.
He is. He's absolutely ridiculous. And he trots out this pseudoscience crap that sounds like it's impressive because it uses a lot of big words, and he doesn't obviously understand the first thing about what he's talking about. He just relies on these impressive sounding pieces that he's found and then pronounces everybody else as stupid.
Quantum Erasure does the same thing. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know that one.
Oh, Quantum Erasure, he's a flat earther.
Oh,
he does the exact same thing. He just throws shit out there and sees what sticks.
Well, that's why after watching him with a theologian woman, when I did challenge him, I was like, I'm not debating evolution with this guy because he doesn't understand it, and he won't admit that he doesn't understand it. And I don't know a whole lot about it either. So, he's going to spew a bunch of gobbledygook that's not going to make any sense to me. So, no, I'm not doing it. But I said I wanted to debate him on the concept of evidence. Because he just didn't seem to understand what evidence was.
Well, there's different ways of looking at evidence.
That's what I said. And he pitched a fit and ended up rage quitting because I wanted to debate that and not evolution.
See, evidence to me doesn't have to be experiential, and evidence doesn't have to be empirical.
No.
Evidence could be, in science, evidence is something that weighs towards a hypothesis. Toward the likelihood of a hypothesis being true or false. That's evidence in science. But in general, evidence is something that you give to somebody to be weighed and say, okay, this is my justification for something. That's evidence. I'm fine with that.
It floored me that he would have somebody come on and recite all of their credentials for why they were an authority about what they were going to talk about, and then just outhand dismiss anything and everything she said, unless she could produce 5 or 6 different documents.
Because he doesn't understand it, so he just dismisses it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see people do that a lot.
The scientific community was so That's why the scientific community was so upset at Bill Nye for debating Ken Ham, because it kind of puts these people at a stage that, hey, look who I'm debating. I'm debating someone with all these degrees, all this stuff. She's coming down here because I found the problem with what she's saying, and now I'm going to show you guys that me and her are at the same level. When
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think Bill Nye did a great job. I think that debate. Yeah. I remember that debate. I wasn't impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's this no, they weren't even on the same level. They weren't even on the same page. And all Ken Ham is going to do is just argue, oh, well, you're wrong because
the Bible.
That's it. We're wrong because God says you're wrong.
Yep.
That's it. And I see that on my Facebook all the time.
But Bill Nye is a professional scientific communicator. He is actually not a scientist. Not to say that he doesn't understand these concepts, but
he's not a debater.
He may have gone out of his element trying to have this type of discussion with someone like him.
Yeah, he doesn't have a degree in any scientific field.
Yes, he does. He has a degree in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
that's a scientific.
Yeah, I agree, man. I don't think Bill Nye.
He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering.
Yeah. But I mean, he is a scientific communicator. But again, that doesn't make you a good debater. I mean, William Lane Craig is one of the best debaters I've ever seen, only for the fact that he uses such sophistry to win an argument, whether it's right, it's good or bad or whatever. He'll do anything it takes to win the debate. Right? Even if his argument's shit, he does a really good job at debating because he's a professional debater. Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's right. I think William Lane Craig makes some pretty horrible arguments. He has one or two that I think is okay, but I agree with him on the presumption of atheism. And I think his middle knowledge argument is interesting. But the rest, I don't think are good arguments.
Craig is terrible.
No.
Like
Craig,
but a lot of times,
William Lane Craig's one of the best debaters out there. That's what he's a professional at it. Doesn't mean that he's right. It just means he knows how to win an argument.
Not to say William Lane Craig's arguments, his presentation, I'll say, is extremely well. But I'm not too sure about his debating style because, like, even recently, after you kind of get the hitch, he's like easy to beat. Like, I think Sam Harris destroyed him when they were at Notre Dame. It was like a classic defeat because I think Craig, even though he's great at delivering a message to a crowd, it's just he depends on the ignorance of that crowd for his message. Because when you can actually see the flaws in his argument if you have a somewhat educated crowd. And I think that's what happened at Notre Dame.
I totally agree with you, but here's my point on that. Is that yes, people can destroy Craig's arguments. I agree, but when you're debating, the whole goal is to get the audience on your side, right? That's what a debate is for. Is basically win over the people listening. Yeah. Right, and that's what William Craig does, and that's exactly what you said, MP. He plays to the ignorance of the audience, right? And so that's why he does a very good job. Doesn't mean he's right. It just means that he knows how to really placate the audience by saying, "Oh, you know what? Let me tell you what you want to hear, so I can get you on my side." Because he knows the people that listen to him doesn't really understand what the hell he's saying half the time. Darwin's is the same way. True empiricism is the same way. If he starts rambling off a bunch of jargon, nobody understands what the hell he's saying. People that are in the field don't know what the hell they're saying. So how can somebody else who doesn't even know these terms ever hope to understand what the hell he's saying? Because it's twofold. One, it makes no sense. And two, they don't know the terms either. Right? I mean, have you ever heard anybody say, true empiricism makes sense? That was a really good articulate thing that he talked about when he came to ATP synthase or electron transport chain. It never happens.
This reminds me of one time I had a case against, it was the guy was from Colombia, and he had, I think, clerked for the Supreme Court, and he was helping out a friend he was his defense attorney. So we get in the court, and we're at the arraignment, and he makes like this philosophical, great argument using all these, great legal terms and the Latin. And you know what the judge said? He said, that was like the best piece of lawyering I've ever heard, but I don't know what the hell you said. And your client's going to go to jail if you dumb it down for me right now. And that's what I think, and that's what I think happens with William Lane Craig is that, and even true empiricism and the rest of them is that they want to use these words because in life, we people who do use the more complicated vernacular, we associate intelligence with. And this person must know what he's talking about because who else would use a word not knowing that they don't know what they're talking about and they're just hitting you with the jargon bomb.
But people use certain words for clarity. That's it, for clarity. He doesn't use it for clarity. He uses it for confusion.
Well, that's what Eric Jewell does. He comes out with these, links to websites that are babbling away in high-level jargon about very specific things that the average person, and because he goes into a group and says, hey, somebody come right now and debate me, he's got all this shit ready to go. And some person who, like myself, I know evolution has changed over time. It has nothing to do with origins. It takes, a huge amount of time for the changes to occur. It's gradual, yada, yada. I get the basics. And he comes out like when you talk about this synthase stuff, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he brings out big, complicated shit like that. And when you're like, what the fuck did you just say? See, you don't know anything about evolution because God did it, blah, blah, blah. And it's just so disingenuous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't have to know.
You can't talk about ATP synthase. You can't talk about evolution because you don't even know what ATP synthase is.
Yeah, you don't have to know jack shit about ATP synthase. Know about evolution.
We can't have a conversation. You're not at my level. That's
well, yeah, because it's a turbine. Exactly. You know what a turbine is. But MP, that's why I debated Ronnie on that, because I wanted to show people he doesn't know what a turbine is. He has no clue what a turbine is. He has literally no idea what an actual turbine actually does. So when he throws that out there, ATP synthase, a turbine. Oh. One of the definitions of a turbine is that it converts fluid energy into rotational mechanical energy. And there's nothing like that going on in ATP synthase. It's a proton motor. It's not a fluid.
So would that be like the bacterial flagellum motor?
Same principle. If I remember correctly, the bacterial flagellum motor is still a rotational thing, just like the what's called the hexagon.
It's actually for the bacterial flagellum. It's called the world's most efficient motor.
Right. Yeah. That's the level I'm at. I can tell you why a bacterial flagellum isn't irreducibly complex, but that's
average Joe in the live chat going, Steve's gonna nuke out. Hey, average Joe, I had to learn about turbines. He was a nuke too, by the way. He was a machinist mate like myself. We learn a lot about turbines in the Navy. Trust me, because we work on them. You actually have to take them out of inspection. You have to inspect the gears. You have to inspect the stuff. You have to understand how it works because you don't want to screw it up. How many millions of dollars do you think it is if a turbine has a problem to replace them? Or what's worse, if you have what's called impingement, where you have steam coming in and it forms water too quickly, and so you have these water droplets hitting these blades traveling at several thousand, tens of thousands RPM. What do you think is going to happen to that blade? It's going to go shooting through the damn upper decks. So you try to avoid those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did have to understand quite a bit about how the turbines work, Rateau stages and pressure velocity compounding and all that happy horse shit, which is jargon bombing, but at least I know what it means. So does our average Joe.
Steve, I do want to ask you one question. Were you upset when he said he didn't prepare for the whole thing, where he just said he just showed up?
No.
And was tuning his guitar?
No.
How did you feel about him saying that?
No, it didn't bother me in the least. I knew he wasn't going to prepare. I knew he had nothing to prepare.
Because it was such a beating that I would suspect it would have offended me that he thought he could just get up that same morning and make an argument.
I had no expectations from him, so I wasn't let down.
Wow, he set the bar that low for you, Steve.
Yeah. I was like, okay. You got to remember, first of all, he tries to save face.
Yeah.
He knows he's got his ass handed to him, and he tries to save face because he'd been trying to debate me for a year, and this was his argument. This was his gold standard. Oh, look, this is what I've been saying all along. Nobody else knows about these topics, and I'm like, okay, let's have a debate on this. And I challenged him a long time ago, and I said, okay, fine, I'll have a discussion about this with you. And he just changed it into evolution. I'm like, no, I didn't say I was going to have a discussion about evolution. I was going to say a discussion about turbines. But
the thing is, when people like you guys use jargon, and I would just say, what the fuck did you just say? You would be able to break it down and explain it to me so that I probably could understand it.
Well, yeah, like average Joe
those guys.
He just asked, he said, cavitation is more of an issue on pumps. Do you know what he means by that, Heretic? Cavitation is an issue on pumps?
Not a fucking clue.
I can explain it because we studied this. Cavitation what happens
Right.
when a pump no longer has net positive suction head on the intake, such that you drop into pressure that air bubbles come out of solution. Okay, so what happens is
that
the
makes
water
sense.
the water
Yeah.
tends to keep the pump cool, right? And what happens when you have air
Right.
coming out of the solution is that you've developed a thermal insulation, so the pool does the pump isn't cool properly, and it creates steam. Okay, so a pump cavitates.
Okay.
So the blades that are going around produces the bubble. That's cavitation. There's two problems with that. One, it
Okay.
produces noise, and if you're a submarine and you're having
Right.
cavitations on the impeller, that gives away your position. Not a good thing, right? And
Okay.
two, it like I said, it for a pump like a fire pump, it produces steam. And do you know what happens when it produces steam?
It's hot.
It gets really hot. And matter of fact, I burned
Yeah.
the shit out of myself one time because I was a dumb fuck. And this was like when I first got to my ship. I tried to release. There's a little nut on the top of some pumps, and you can open it up. And I would open that up trying to release the pressure because the pump had been cavitated because the outtake was closed, and so the pump had nowhere to go. So what happens? Think about this, Heretic. You have a pump, and then you have a valve at the outtake. Okay, so the valve is closed, and you have a pump, and it's just churning. It's just churning. It's just rotating. That's going to create heat,
Yeah.
correct? Because the
Okay.
water has nowhere
Yeah.
to go. It's the water's going to give. You have energy going into the system, so you have a temperature increase. So I
You're
tried
putting the
releasing that
water under
nut.
pressure, therefore the water's going to get warmer because it's
Yes.
under pressure.
So what do you think
Right.
what do you think that happened when I tried to release the pressure on that nut or that
Well,
screw?
it spewed steam everywhere.
Yeah, it popped out and burned the hell out of my fingers.
That's not good.
So I learned on the job, not a good thing to do. So these are theory and practices, right? I mean, I knew the theory,
Yep.
I understood what was happening, but at the time I didn't understand in practice. That's not how you release the pressure. That's not what you do, you know.
Right.
So the type of pump he's describing is like a tube with a propeller inside it that then goes
Yeah.
into like
It's
a
an
hair
impeller.
dryer shaped thing with a turbine, and then you've got an outtake, which is where you squirt your shit.
Yeah,
With
it's
the
an
valves
impeller.
closed
There's a
and
difference
the
between a propeller and an
outtake's
impeller.
where-
Impeller is inside the pump. A
Right.
propeller is on the external.
Right. Okay. But see,
That's
it's
how
obvious
you
that
explain it
you.
simply.
Okay, how about this one?
Thank you, Dress. I
Logic
appreciate
meets
that.
speculation said I think it means propulsion, steam pressure can cut a person in half. See, I can explain what he means
But
by
you
that.
guys can talk about it in a way that makes sense to somebody who doesn't understand it because you've studied it.
Right, but this is let me explain
You were
about-
once you were once the person that didn't understand it and came to an understanding.
Yeah.
Those idiots just have no understanding and they're using someone else's jargon to try and make it look like they know something they don't.
But let
And
me
that's
explain
the
this,
easiest way.
Let me explain this.
Yes.
Like in the live, and this is why it's so funny because they think that we don't know anything, right? Nobody knows
Yeah.
anything about the CCP, right? But when somebody in the live chat says
Yeah.
like steam can cut you in half, I know the story on that. And by the way, that's not true. It's only if it's superheated steam. Okay, saturated
it's
steam is not
extremely
going to
high
cut you in
pressure.
half. It'll burn the hell
So
out of
you've
you.
got enough of a jet coming out where there's enough force to actually cut through you. It's the same way
Yeah.
as you can cut steel with water.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I could, if
there's
like
not enough
my
energy in the system to cut
vision
through
of
you.
steam is, clouds of steam kind of poofing out of a tea kettle.
But-
And even if you could superheat that, it's still just going to be floating out of the tea kettle. It's not going to, that's not going to cut anything.
Here's the problem with that. No, superheated steam,
Okay.
you won't see a plume until unless it's on
Right,
the
okay.
bulkhead.
It's a jet.
But what
Okay.
happens? Superheated steam is pretty
Okay.
much invisible, and so you don't see anything but a
Okay.
plume that's formed
But
when it hits the wall. But at that point, that will cut you in half. If you have a pipe that's superheated and has a pinhole leak, they actually will take wood.
But that's pressurized. That's
Well, of course it's
pressurized, right?
pressurized. Yeah, you have to have pressurization to have
Yeah.
superheated steam.
Yeah. What I'm
That's
saying
what
is like,
it was
okay, let's say it's invisible. I can't see it, but the steam is just it's superheated, but it's just kind of billowing out of whatever, a giant kettle or something.
Well, you can't have superheated steam in a
There's
kettle.
no pressure.
That's not superheated.
Hey, well, I
You,
mean,
you need the pressure to create the superheating.
that's
bit,
what I'm trying to say. If
because
it's just
without the pressure,
it's-
there's no superheating.
yeah, I'm just saying. Okay, so if it's ridiculously hot, but it's puffing around and there's no pressure. Never mind, I don't know shit.
No, it just means you can't get the steam that hot before it evaporates.
Okay.
Average
So
Joe
in other words, I don't know what superheated
that's a
means.
limitation without the pressure. With the pressure, you can make it hotter than you can without the pressure because you're containing the fact that the energy can't go anywhere. So you can make it hotter and hotter and hotter until you break containment.
Average Joe is giving away numbers. He's giving away classified numbers in the live chat.
It just means that I don't understand what superheated that is.
It's basically if you had a balloon and you could pop that balloon without the balloon exploding, like you put a bit of sellotape over it or something, and that little tiny jet. So you've got the pressure of the balloon, which is your source of energy, the compression.
Yes.
Trying to get out, which is the jet. That jet you can feel with your finger. It's steam and it's at much higher pressure.
And much easier way of saying that. All superheated
Okay.
means is that you're above the boiling point for your PVT. Your pressure, you have pressure, volume, and temperature. So at a given pressure, you're above the point of boiling in a pressurized system. That's all superheated really means. So you have a lot more what's called enthalpy in the system, which is your energy of the system, internal energy of the system.
But the whole thing is you guys were just able to break it down for me because you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, actually, I mean, would you? My ex-wife explained that to me to explain how a pressure cooker works.
Yeah, Heretic. Would you, if you want to learn about steam, Heretic, if you want to learn about steam, would you go to a person who is a mechanic running nuclear power plants? Would you go to Ronnie?
But he goes,
I'm such a nuclear power plant guy.
Okay, because you got two right now. You got me and Average Joe. We're both nukes. We had to learn about steam. I mean, a lot.
Put it this way, I would trust Ronnie to tune my guitar, but only because I have a guitar tuner.
And I've forgotten a hell of a lot. I mean, after 25 years, you know how much you forget about this stuff? I mean, for God's sake. I could barely read. I couldn't read a Mollier diagram if my life depended on it right now, I doubt. But I know what a Mollier diagram is, at least.
I couldn't spell Mollier diagram.
It's French.
No, neither could I.
A Mollier diagram is what you use to look at they have the curves, and it tells you, okay, at this given pressure and this given temperature, how much enthalpy, which is the internal energy of the system, as opposed to the entropy, which is the unusable energy of the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a boiler explode once. I didn't see it, but I heard it, and then we had to fix it.
Oh, that would be horrible.
We had to fix it up the road like it was on a floating
diagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hated doing the boiler was bad enough, but I also hated doing hydrostatic testing because in a hydrostatic test, if it fails, it's usually going to be a catastrophic failure. And when they say catastrophic, it basically catastrophic just means that it literally just shatters or breaks apart, and it's a big failure. But catastrophic will kill you, so it means that as well.
Yeah, that's not good.
You know.
And you were in the Navy, and you must have been of a relatively low rank at that time. Hence, you're at the front.
Yeah. The first things you start doing when you get to your ship is you're the one that gets to do all that crap. Yeah, Matt Dillahunty actually went to nuke school. He didn't make it through. He ended up being a bosun's mate, but I don't know if he went to.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I don't know if he made it
to make our sacrifices to get into the Navy.
I don't know if he made it through A school. You know what? I'm gonna have to ask him. I have his. He sent me an email the other day. Well, he sent us an email. Me and somebody else. But I'll have to ask Anthony Magnabosco to ask him about that. How far into nuke school did he make it? If he went through A school, or did he get to the light side or the dark side? I don't think he made it to the dark side. Oh, Average Joe's like, primary pressure valve, relief valve testing was scary. Yeah, the primary pressure relief valve, if I remember, and Average Joe in the live chat, it depends on your plant. But if I remember in my plant, I think it was around 1900 or 1910 PSI that the first one would pop. You had a couple different primary relief valves. You had two primary and a secondary, if I remember correctly, and that you had, the first one would release steam. Okay, so when you have reached a certain pressure around 1880 or 1900 PSI, you would have a relief valve open and release some steam. Well, that's obviously going to cause an internal drop in pressure in the system. If that didn't work, then you would have a fluid one, because obviously fluid is going to be a lot denser. It's going to release pressure a lot more. But the problem with that is you also have a lot of radiation that gets released with the water as well. So, because the primary relief valve, it takes it overboard. It takes it to the seawater, and you literally are releasing radiological material into the sea, or if you're in the sound or something. So, not a good thing. But
and Dress needs some WD-40 for his chair.
he does. It's like floorboards.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's a new chair. I haven't obviously broken it in yet.
Oh well.
Yeah, I think we're running out of time. I think we're running out of
time.
topics. I think we're kind of getting to the end of this.
Yeah.
This wasn't a huge episode. We didn't really get into that much detail about the problem of induction or anything like that, which is okay. I mean, next time if we have somebody like Ozzy or Alex can join us and kind of like really dive into it, I think that'd be awesome. But I just want to have a very superficial hang on it because I saw Darwin's Deity talking to Steve on G-Man's thing, and I was just like, this is the same old shtick I always see him do. Why didn't he, like run his shtick on people that can actually have an understanding of it? What?
Well, because then he'd have to know what he was talking about.
Right. And he doesn't. I mean,
he would actually have to know something if he did that.
So I think we're gonna call this to a close. So what else is going on this week? Something else I was gonna. Oh, tomorrow I think is the eviction. I think they're gonna come out and evict my roommate here. So
I missed that hangout. I was gonna ask you how that was going.
Oh, it was great. It was great. I'm gonna try to record it. We're gonna ask the officers if we can record it. So if we can record it, then I'll put it up on YouTube. So I'm hoping they come back.
If it's from within your own property and they don't have any audio, then you're definitely safe.
No, you're right on that.
I don't know if you have the wiretapping law in your
No.
state.
The way it works is we can definitely run video with no audio, and we don't need their permission. However, we don't want to piss them off. We want them on our side, so we're going to ask permission. We're going to let them know. I ask them, can we record this? And if they say no, we're not going to, of course. But I don't think that they're going to be bothered by it because we think this guy up there is barricaded himself, and we don't even know if he has a firearm or not. I don't think it's going to go down smoothly because he even said he's not legal, right?
In that case, Steve, stay out of the way because you guys don't have very thick walls in your country.
Oh, I'll be downstairs, but I have a camera that I put on the other computer. I took my webcam off this one and I put it on Kevin's computer. And it's pointed right up on the balcony, so we can kind of see what's going on. But
nice.
Why don't you do something you recorded for liability purposes?
Well, that's what we're going to tell. That's what we're going to tell the officers. And we talked to the initial officer, and he said, "I know the guys that come out and do this. They probably won't care. They don't, but we don't want to put them on edge either because when officers know they're being filmed, it's a little bit different. But
yeah."
We'll see. But yeah,
please don't not throw him down the stairs just because I'm filming.
Yeah, don't toss him over the edge.
It's going on my LOLs video list.
Yeah, I don't see the guy. I don't see the guy.
That's me. No, I really hope you don't get thrown.
I don't see the guy going away in anything but handcuffs because he's just so adamant that he's not going anywhere, and I don't think he realizes what's going on. And eventually, these two officers that come over, that what we understood, they don't mess around. They're like, you have 10 minutes, get your stuff, what you need, and go. If not, it's criminal. I think is it criminal trespassing? MP, I think it's criminal trespassing.
Probably. I think so.
Well, no, trespass is a civil.
No, trespassing is civil or criminal.
If it's criminal trespass, then that would be probably specified in the letting contract.
Oh, it'd be if they arrest him, it's criminal trespassing.
Yeah,
because they're arresting him. It's not just between him and the landlord; it's the fact that they've asked him to leave, and he's refused that to do that. So, I'm hoping something happens. I'm not going to lie, I really do. Well,
no, technically, you can do a citizen's arrest, which is what they do to get you on a civil matter. But then, if you resist arrest, then you're resisting the lawful orders of a police officer, which gets you in even more trouble.
Yeah,
I believe that's how your system works.
And I think it doesn't take very much to get considered to be resisting arrest.
Well, like I said, they don't have time or the patience to dick around with these people. They're like, you know what, you're done. We're not here to argue the merits of the case. They're not here to argue who's right and who's wrong. There's a writ of possession that they need to execute, and there's a writ of eviction they need to execute. So that's all they're there for. That's it. They don't judge the merit. They say this is what the court's told us to do. So
we're following our directive.
Now I was just about to end this, but somebody's coming in now.
Well, I'm glad that it's hopefully going to get sorted out for you at least.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Hey, Brian, how you been, man?
Hey,
We're just about to call this quits though, and you're muted, by the way.
you're muted. You're muted.
I don't lip read.
I'm always muted. Sorry about that. I just
Yeah.
came in to listen for a moment. I'll probably just be in and out, but just wanted to hear what's going on.
Yeah, well, we're just about to call
Yeah.
it quits. You came at the bad time.
I've been so active, I don't have time to like challenge people to debates and get denied. You know, I just don't got time these days.
Has anybody as of yet? Wait, hang on, Just. Has anybody as of yet?
Sorry.
Brian, has anybody as of yet actually like accepted any of your debate challenges?
I'm trying to think who all I've challenged. No one's really stepped up. I mean, the Kent Hovind stuff would have been pretty interesting because I think he makes a mockery of religion, and I was actually super serious on that one because I've got the I've got it over there somewhere. I'll show you guys. It's one of the books. Sorry, it's so dark in here. I've got one of his books from his PhD program. You should see how tiny it is.
Oh God. Wait, there's a Wait, Patriot University has a PhD program? I thought you'd like send them $2,000 and they know you something.
I am intrigued to see this weighty treaty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's see what it requires to be a PhD from Patriot University.
I wonder if it's as riveting as Hovind's own thesis.
Hi, my name is Ken Hovind. I've been a science teacher for 15 years.
Yeah.
Is it still the case? Is it still the case if you do theology or something that as a PhD you're supposed to extend the body of knowledge? Isn't that part of?
And I don't know if this is true or not, but the way I've heard it, and people can tell me if it's right or wrong because I'm not a PhD, but the way I've heard it is: look, if you get a bachelor's degree, you've demonstrated you have a basic competency. If you get a master's degree, you've demonstrated that you have a proficiency, and if you're a PhD, you're actually adding to the body of information.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm thinking.
That's what. So I'm just setting up the irony for this for you.
So here we go.
Go ahead, Brian.
Here's the book. Wait, oh no, this is an introduction to statistics book. This is an intro to statistics book. Here's Kent Hovind's book right here. I don't know if you can tell.
Wow.
This is.
What's the name of that? What's the title of it?
What is it? Some
great Bible
characters.
So
it's
this is going to be a joke. This is going to be
No, it's not I'm sure it's not a joke.
I took snips of this. This is not a joke. This is how big it is. Like I was posting this to Kent Hovind, like, come on and defend it. I mean, it's literally just a little pamphlet almost of like some great Bible. It's literally a pamphlet. And
right, that's why I can't take these people seriously. I'm telling you, I'm not lying to you guys. I am so disgusted with theists at this point.
Someone's got a PhD off the title. The title alone should get you a fail.
Yeah.
She shouldn't actually have to open it.
But see, my problem is I'm not only
I can find the course here.
My problem is I'm not only
I had posting links on it,
sorry,
but
guys.
yeah.
My problem is I'm not only disgusted with theists, I'm disgusted with atheists too. So I can't win. You know. Now they're telling me Drax Hangout. Hang on, now they're telling me Drax Hangout just ended, and I was going to end this, but if people want to join, come on in now. Link is in the Great Debate community, so let people know if they want to come in. I'll extend it a little bit longer because I want to discuss this a little bit more because I can't believe that book, Brian. Stats compared to that's for its PhD program.
Book. So I can post a link somewhere, but if you go look up all the course descriptions, it shows you all these little books and they all look like mock-ups. They're all like these fake mock-up books. But the only one I could find that I could actually order was this one. And it is just a pamphlet of random people in the Bible. The guy was born in 1895. He was a Baptist preacher who wrote this. He died in 1980. So,
wow.
Well, I mean, did you ever, have you
program.
And
one sec, Brian, have you ever downloaded and read the Creationist Handbook 9th edition that's free on the internet that Hovind has?
What is it? The Handbook 9th edition?
It's called the Creationist Handbook. It's the 9th edition that's downloadable. It's a www Arrival at the Fittest. I can find a link for you. And it is the dumbest bullshit in the world. Just type in.
No, I could debate. If one day that happens, if I debate Kent Hovind on
just type in Arrival of the Fittest, Creationist Handbook, 9th edition, and you'll find it. Download it and look at that crap.
I'm sorry. Actually, I would be disappointed if my 13-year-old brought that home as a project.
Yeah, Hovind's not really debating that much on other people's channels. But I'm finding out that people are not going to his channel to watch these debates. He's had a few on his own channel. They're getting about 1,000 views, as opposed to like King Crocoduck on his channel. The video was 50,000 on his and 30,000 on mine. So I mean, it's just he's not getting anybody to go over to his channel to watch this stuff, because the people that watch these debates are not his followers more than anything else. They're people that are against him, and all he's trying to do is convince the people that already believe his bullshit. That's the whole thing. That's the whole goal on young Earth creationism. It's not so much to convert people to young Earth creationism, but the people that are already believers, they want to keep them. So
I just had the picture of the French peasants surrounding the guillotine as the chopper comes down. But it's late, and I'm in a strange frame of mind.
But does that make sense to you, Brian? There's not so much.
I think you're exactly right, Steve.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. And I think that's maybe why he might diminish the amount of debates he's doing, because he's not likely to gain more. He's likely to just scrape away at the young Earth creationists, just take off a few people at a time from him. So maybe he's noticing that. He's like, hey, I'm just losing a few people.
Yeah, and that's why I was willing to do him on my channel, right? Because I don't think a single debate that he had on my channel convinced a damn person that he was right. I don't think he won over anybody. The people that sided with him the people that sided with him already sided with him, right? So all his goal was to keep the people that believe his bullshit believing. Because I've never heard anybody say, you know what, I was really into science and I accept evolution, and then I watched a Ken Hovind debate and I totally changed my mind. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
Well, and if you did, I would be really worried for that person.
I think it'd be mental.
I'd be like, have you seen your doctor recently at all?
I don't know how a rational person could ever listen to Hovind and think that that Hovind knows a damn thing. When King Crocoduck was talking to him, the level of understanding that Hovind had with physics was abysmal. Just absolutely abysmal. He doesn't even understand. He doesn't even understand that if something's 13 billion light years away, it takes light 13 billion years to get to us. Not that complicated.
What I actually find really sad is that it reinforces the European stereotype of Americans, because that's the type of Americans we tend to see, unless they're film stars.
The fundamentalists like that?
Fundamentalists, or some of your more idiotic politicians.
Well, I mean, we are
who demonstrate their comprehensive knowledge of geopolitical situations.
The thing about America is that because we're such a freedom-based society, we allow people obviously to be stupid, right? And the thing that I wonder is, though, people have a right to be stupid, but I don't believe in stifling conversation. If people want to advocate stupid shit, go ahead, right? I never say shut down channels like True Empiricism or G-Man. Never, right? Never have advocated that whatsoever. I think they do more to help my cause than to harm it. Because, again, I don't know many people that would go, oh, yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this, and I'm totally going to believe G-Man or Ronnie. No, they're only talking to people that already believe this stuff. Matter of fact, it's ironic that G-Man calls this thing preaching to the choir ministries. It's apropos. Because I don't think he knows what that phrase means, but whatever.
Actually, Ranger did a reply video to G-Man last night that I was on, and G-Man was saying, "Oh, all you atheist bullies are trying to shut down all the Christian YouTuber channels,"
and
we're like,
absolutely retarded. I've never heard any atheist tell me that was their goal.
Yeah.
Not one, ever.
It's bullshit.
And I can tell you right now, I'm in a closed group on Facebook that is about 35 people that are atheist, skeptics, whatever, that all have large channels. And none of them have ever said, hey, let's get together and try to take down G-Man's channel, or let's take down never. And nobody has ever said anything like that, even remotely, because that's not what they do.
Exactly. Steve, you're a member of the Illuminati.
Clearly.
You're the shell that's.
But that's what they think that's happened.
I knew it.
Listen to the way G-Man talks about atheists. He thinks. He used to think that atheists were trying to kill him. Still does, I think.
Steve, please change the name of your Facebook group to Bohemian Grove.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not elite. I don't know. I'm not elite enough to go to Bohemian Grove.
It would be the irony.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why I'm just so turned off to this whole theist stuff anymore, because I see just how ridiculous their arguments are. I went to the site a couple days ago, and I was kind of curious. I'm like, okay, let's look at some of the theist arguments compared to the atheist arguments. And every single thing that was on, well, the question was, what's more likely, God exists or doesn't exist? And it was 55% said more likely God exists, 45% said less likely to exist. And the 55 argument were just the dumbest things I've ever heard. There was none of these people were justified, in my opinion, to say that God's more likely. But you know what? The atheists didn't have much better arguments. Some of them were okay, but they weren't much better. But the ones on the theist side it was all troll. Every one of them. Every one of these theists it seemed like a troll comment. I couldn't tell if they actually believed this, if they were that stupid, or they were just trolling. It's at that point, I don't even know the difference anymore with these people. Is that sad, though? They say
something. Oh, Brian, heretic, this is beautiful. Yes.
Heretic. When Jim Barber, a.k.a. Krishna Hillbilly, is on my Facebook page, is it not impossible to tell if he's really that stupid or if he's trolling? I know him well enough to know he's not trolling. He is that dumb. But to the onlooker, right. How the hell are you supposed to know the difference?
You can't. I mean, I get people coming on my page or in groups that I'm in, and I'm like,
dress your chair.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dress.
Good Lord.
I'm just like there was a group of them in a group a couple weeks ago. There's like 4 or 5 of them. And I'm sitting there going, these people have to be pose. And like pose drive me nuts because for whatever reason, I don't seem to be able to figure out that they're pose right away, or I assume somebody's a Poe and then they're not. I don't know. I hate that. But these people were ridiculous. Like beyond, like they were exaggerating their spelling errors and their grammatical errors, and they were, randomly all caps here and there, and it was, I'm like, you guys have to be Poes.
Yeah,
there's just no way.
I think Poes are my bane because I can't stand Poes. I think they serve no purpose. They're only in it for themselves. It distracts from the actual conversation, and they're just there to inflame and cause problems. And they can all kiss my ass.
I agree.
So I can't stand Poes. I think the Poes are worse than the creationists in a way, because the creationists at least believe their bullshit. Okay,
like a Poe who's like, Stephen Colbert's old show. That I can get into because it's set up like I am a Poe.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's like we're going into this fantasy Poe world together kind of thing. That I can get behind because it's funny. But somebody who's just like randomly posting as a Poe with no contacts that you'd have no idea who this person is or what they're about. It's so like I replied to those people 2 or 3 times, and I was like, wait a minute, these have got to be Poes, and I'm wasting my time, and there's no reason to interact with these people. But it's people don't catch that, and then they go on and on and on, and that's like, oh, I'm a Poe. Like, ugh.
It's what I call the Ali G syndrome. If you remember that.
Yes.
Hey, G-Man, by the way, G-Man, yes. I sent you the link on G Plus before I even started this. So G-Man's like, Steve won't have me. I actually posted on my public page the link to get in here, and I tagged G-Man.
Oh man,
I tagged Veckel, and I know they won't join, but I mean, I don't care one way or another. But it's just my rule of thumb is standard. The rule of thumb is if you're talking about somebody, you have a right to join. Period.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only reason I don't send this to Darwin's anymore is because Darwin has never been in here. That's why I don't tag him. He's welcome to, but G-Man has been in before. But yeah, I won't tag Darwin's because there's no reason to. He won't.
You're roboting quite badly.
Who is?
Yeah.
You are.
Really?
Yeah. I'm missing
okay
like every
refresh.
2 or 3 words.
Hang on. Okay, is that better?
Probably know who they are. Yeah, that's
better.
I was going to say, I have one quick comment. I think the issue with Pose is that it's faux intellectualism. You see Stephen Colbert, such a such an intelligently written show, making some joke that is so deep, but they're really not. They're just
no.
Yeah, it's not intellectual. It's fake. It's putting on airs to be intellectual. Like, oh, look at this cool joke I'm doing that only I get. Which, what are you doing? It's like Andy Kaufman, but only yourself, and that's not worth. So you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are not the great intellectuals they think they are. They're just obscuring the conversation. They're just
exactly.
Yes, we asked why I didn't go into a G-Man's hangout the other day. G-Man actually unblocked me, he says. But here's the thing. Look at, it isn't so much who goes into where. It has the ability to, right? I can go into G-Man's hangout now if I want to. That's different than him blocking somebody, right? I don't disallow anybody from coming in here. There's a few people that I have blocked. There are a handful of people that I have blocked. They're not allowed in here. G-Man has never been one of those people, though. And neither has any of the Clown Car Posse. None of them are blocked. Are you leaving, Brian?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just waving goodbye. I have to go pick up someone. So
thanks, buddy.
Okay, good to see you.
No, good to see you guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Okay.
Take care. I realise you can't see me waving.
Well, wave back, Dress. There you go.
But you know, like I said, I have no interest to going into G-Man's or Ronnie's hangouts. I just don't. You don't get any conversation. You don't have. There's nothing productive. I get nothing out of it. You know, so it just doesn't hold any interest to me to go in any of those hangouts.
Yeah. It's like, why would you want to go into a Neffy hangout? I did that once, and that was once too many.
Yeah, no, I tried again when I helped Neffy get back on the air. I went in one of his hangouts, and he hadn't changed. I was like, okay, bye. I'm done. You know, it's just I don't not going to waste my time. You know.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like they actually bring anything new to the table.
And that's the big thing, right? I mean, there's nothing that I'm going to when I go to Neffy's hangouts. He talks about the same things that he's always talked about. There's been no change. There's been no growth. There's been no learning. So.
Yep.
So hey, G-Man.
So do is come up with more dumb arguments, not the same ones.
That would be great. I would actually like that. So.
Yeah.
So G-Man, the other day you had Darwin's Deity on. So what was his argument?
He was arguing his precept argument.
No, but what was his argument, though? He wasn't really running a precept. He had an argument against Steve. What was his argument?
The guy that he was in the room with, he was arguing his precept argument.
No, he wasn't. He was arguing about Hume's problem of induction and causality. So what was his argument against it, though?
When Didi came in the room, he asked Steve a couple of questions, and I don't know. I think Steve seemed a little elusive when he was talking to him.
Well,
and honestly, I just wanted the conversation to progress, and the conversation took a long time just to move a little bit.
So you have no idea what Darwin's Deity was arguing.
I know what I think I know what Darwin Deity was trying to do.
Okay, which was what?
But
okay, I wasn't there, so explain it to me.
Yeah, pretend
please,
none of us listened.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so you don't.
That's
you're
not intelligent. I'm not going to do that.
All right, so you have no clue what Darwin's is talking about, then, right?
How is that not intelligent?
Well, no, it is. Well, hang on, Eric.
I don't think it's intelligent to argue somebody else's argument.
No, G-Man, I didn't ask you to argue his argument. I asked you to explain his argument. You agree with.
No, I think the best person to explain his arguments is Darwin's Deity.
Okay, so do you understand his argument?
I understand. I think what he was trying to do when he was talking to Steve is because Steve took so long to answer a question, or just saying, you know what, I don't want to answer the question because I've been through this or whatever. He just seemed elusive, and it got boring real fast for me.
I
allowed it to happen because I figured if it got long enough. You know,
how can you say that you agree with his argument if you don't know what his argument is, or be able to explain to us his argument? I can explain Darwin's Deity argument. I mean, my first half hour of this hangout was explaining Darwin's Deity's argument, and I wasn't in the hangout.
I haven't been watching that long. I just came out of Dragnos hangout, who just ended it because you was having a hangout, I think. So And I'm saying I think because I don't know the 100% reason or whatever. But the bottom line is that yesterday Didi was asking Steve some questions, and he was being elusive.
How do you know if he's been elusive if you don't know his argument?
Once I start going into my opinion, once I start going into my opinions, and then I end up making a mistake and end up saying something he never was trying to say. That's why I'm not going to do that.
But I think that's fair, Steve.
There's a difference between arguing Didi's argument and explaining to other people what his argument supposedly is. I mean, do you agree with Darwin's? Do you think that induction is circular? G-Man?
We didn't hear the second half of that, Steve.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
Yeah. Do you think, because according to Darwin's, he and I think Matt Slick runs this as well, that induction is circular or quote begging the question? Do you think induction begs the question?
I don't know. Everybody don't use the presuppositional argument the same way.
That's not presup.
I use a form of the presuppositional argument when
I'm
arguing.
That's not presup, G-Man. We're not talking about presup.
Well, he uses a pure form of the presup argument. I, on the other hand, do something different. I mix a bunch of different arguments together when I'm talking to people. But
I'm not
honestly,
asking about presup.
Unless there's a flow to the conversations that he have with people, it's hard to tell you what his goals are and what it is that they're talking about. A lot of times, it's hard. I can tell you what I think, but it won't be right.
Okay, but I'm asking you what you think about Darwin's argument that he says that induction is begging the question. Do you agree with him on that?
I didn't get to hear it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I was listening to them talk last night. I didn't get to hear it.
So you have no idea whether you agree with him or not. If you didn't hear his argument, you don't. How do you know you agree with him?
And Darwin's Deity kept asking the same questions over. That's why I'm telling you. I don't want to say what he was trying to do when most of the hangout, the same question was being repeated over and over and over and over again.
That's what Darwin's Deity does.
I walked away from my computer several times, coughing and throwing up and everything. So.
Yeah, you sound like crap, by the way. No joke. You probably should take some time off and drink some herbal tea or something. You sound harsh. You sound better than you did yesterday, though. Yesterday you sounded actually worse than you do today. But
I guess it's safe to say yesterday I talked too much. I should have just ended the hangout.
Well, I mean, is your voice strained because of? Wait, is your voice strained because of use, or do you?
A tot of whiskey.
Do you think you might have a upper? Do you think you might have an upper viral infection of some kind, or?
I might have to go to the doctor on Monday because I think I'm dehydrated, and I've been drinking a lot of water lately, and it's still not helping. So I might go see a doctor on Monday. I might have to.
Yeah, I mean, you like I said, if you've been yelling and screaming or talking and your voice is strained, that's one thing. Like I was yelling at my roommate the other day, and my voice was shot for 3 days because of it. You sound like you have a upper respiratory infection or something.
Yeah, I got something going on up here, and I don't know what it is. And I've been trying a bunch of different things, but I think if this continues after today, I'm gonna go see a doctor on Monday. What I did today is I slept with this hoodie on and with a bunch of clothes on, get myself under a blanket. I put the heater on at like 70 or 80 degrees, I think it was, and I tried to sweat it out, and it didn't help. So I'm gonna go see a doctor on.
You might need some like antibiotics or something.
I'm gonna need something. I'll go to the doctor Monday and see what's wrong with me.
Well, I mean, if you ever get a chance and Darwin's actually ever wants to, explain his argument better with a bunch of people, he's more than welcome to. But you ever notice that Darwin won't come into a room like this because he knows that POW talkers can come in here. He knows anybody's allowed to come in here. He just goes after people that he knows doesn't understand these arguments. And I don't think Steve was that bad, but they were talking past each other. They weren't really communicating what the problem was because Darwin, I think, confuses things. I think he takes what he thinks is a good argument and bastardizes it to the point where it's not even an argument anymore. Yeah.
I think he's trying to get down to how people are going about making their decisions and how they're reasoning. But if you guys really want to get Darwin in the debate, just make an individual video challenging him. And if he doesn't take you up on it,
I would never do that.
Take it as it is.
Yeah. And by the way,
you have a record saying that you challenged him and he never responded, then that was it. I mean, that's all you can do. Because if I had a problem with him, I would challenge him to a one-on-one debate. And if he didn't take me seriously, I wouldn't talk to him no more. That's with anybody here on the internet.
I have no interest in that whatsoever. I mean, if Darwin's wants to have,
but if you got to do it in a moderator.
Yeah, I like to moderate more than be in debates, but yeah. By the way, I do know that antibiotics are not for viral infections. That's why they're called antibiotics for bacteria. But I mean, I would sit there and listen to like Jack Angstreich have a discussion with Darwins. That'd be fascinating. Darwins won't do it, or rational nihilist. Darwins won't do it.
Well, you could probably set that up if somebody could contact him. And as a matter of fact, I think I got him on my Skype. If you want, if you can,
I tried before. I have actually said that to Darwin's. I don't remember what room we're at, but Josh, Realistic Nihilist, had actually told me, "Hey, Steve, I want to have a discussion with Darwin's, and I want you to moderate. And if anybody, hang on one sec. Somebody's knocking. Slipped under Derek's door. Okay, thank you. I'm going to read it. We got another love note from my roommate here. But I said, look,
another napkin.
Yeah, I'll read it here in a second. But.
Oh boy.
Josh said, "Look, you moderate, and look, if I say anything negative, if I call insult, you chastise for it, and we'll give the point to Darwin's." He really wanted to have a honest dialogue with Darwin's, and as Darwin's greatest hits points on the live chat, I don't think Darwin's knows how to do that. He only wants to interrogate. He only wants to ask questions. Back in the day when I would engage with Darwin's, back on Antonio Fletcher's Hangouts, back in the day when Antonio actually had decent Hangouts. Darwin's never answered questions. He basically will ask questions and then answer a question with a question. That's not how you have a communication.
Well, what I would do if I was in your situation and I was in the Christian room or an atheist room or whoever's room, and Darwin's Deity came in there, and Darwin Deity asked you a question, you should make it known to the moderator. Look, if I'm going to engage with this person, and he asked me one question, I want to be able to ask a question back after I answer. If he's not going to do that, then I don't want to engage with this person, and we should move on with the conversation.
Well, that's what
should happen.
That's what I do. I mean, I won't engage with Darwin on somebody else's channel. He's more than welcome to come in here. But after the things that he would do in Ronnie's Hangouts, in Anthony's Hangouts, or Antonio's Hangouts, and Nadia's, I found it completely a waste of time. He's not interesting in having a conversation. He's just straight up not.
Darwin's Deity lives there in New Jersey. For what I understand, if you want, I can try to get a hold of him and talk to him in person. How come he doesn't answer questions if you want?
Well, the problem is I have a standing rule. This is one of the reasons I don't engage with Darwin's, is that, look, anybody can ask me questions, but I get to ask them questions in return. And if he just wants to do this bastardization of the Socratic method, that he just asks questions over and over and over, and then he fishes for the answers he wants, right? Because he has a script. I won't engage with anybody like that. I want to ask questions just as much as some people want to ask questions to me, and that's fair. I got no issue with that. But
it's very fair.
Yeah, I never heard him answer any questions. You'll answer questions. I don't think you do a good job at it, but you give it a shot. Darwin's won't even bother to give it a shot.
Okay, so I'm not going to comment on the fact that we don't answer questions or whatever.
You answer. You try.
As far as Deity goes, I see. Here's the thing. I like Deity. And I'm trying to learn his argument and trying to see how I can actually use it myself. However, I am in agreement, and this is no secret. I am in agreement that he has to learn how to answer other people's questions as well. He can't necessarily just dominate the room all the time. I let him do it last night because I thought the conversation was going to go somewhere. But you can ask Veckel. As a matter of fact, I asked Veckel, Dragnut, a couple of other people. I literally told them I want them to come and shoot me. I was thinking about asking somebody to snipe my room. Because if I would have kicked him out the room, I would have been called a muter and a booter. I would have been called everything else in the book. But after a while, I just got tired, and I showed both him and his people. Neither one of them was like getting anywhere. It's like, dude, how many times you guys said the same person, same question over and over and over?
And I will agree with you, J-Man. I'm telling you, I'll tell you right here now. You're right. I didn't catch the 6-hour marathon.
You have never been in such a mixed room where so many people are giving you empathy at this moment in time.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't watch the 6 hours. I feel sorry for anybody that was in there for 6 hours. I watched the last, 30 minutes or so. And G-Man, you're spot on right. That's all it was. It was going nowhere. It was literally asking the same question over and over again and getting the same results. And I'm like, this is just a total waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, what I would recommend for Deity, if he's watching this or he sees this, is that if you want to ask somebody a question, you notice that they're not answering it, change the question a little bit, or if they're not going to engage you the way you would want them to when you're asking them a question or whatever, just move on and talk about something else.
Yeah, or reformulate the question in a different way or something different. I mean, Darwin's asked the same exact question the same exact way, expecting different answers, which never made any sense to me. He's done that since Nadia's room.
That went on for 6 hours? Jimmy, you hosted a 6-hour hangout like that?
There ain't no way in the world that was gonna happen on my channel for some 6 hours. No, that happened on like about 30, 35 minutes, I think. And I was losing it too because I told Vecco, I gave Vecco permission to boot them. The conversation, both of them, if the conversation wasn't going to go anywhere, and Vecco, I guess, was listening to it or was away from his computer or whatever. And I said, enough's enough. I was looking at the audience. I didn't understand what was going on after a little while. And I said, you want to know what? I told Dee, don't take this personal, get mad at me or whatever, but I kicked them both out. So I was like, this is ridiculous. It's not even a conversation.
So. At that point, you just say potato is the answer and end it.
Potato.
Potato's always the answer. Actually have a back and forth with him without all the ducking and dodging. Just answer his questions and then ask him a question and see how he answers them. That's what I would like to see.
Well, and
I've done that with him a couple of times, and that's the only time I've ever actually had a reasonable conversation with him. And there's been a couple of times where he hasn't annoyed me to the point where I lose my temper, which I apologize for sometimes doing.
Okay, so if you guys don't mind, we can stop being so nice to each other now because I
I'm
appreciate all
nice.
the.
You'd be surprised how nice I am. But I'll tell you what, you want to like you want to change. Wait, you want to go on a different road.
You guys said that our arguments are not very good. I didn't say you said.
Do you want me to read this? Wait, do you want me to read this note that it's got?
Yes, read your letter from your.
Okay,
roommate,
first of all,
yes.
this is what he slipped over my other roommate's door. This thing is like, oh my god, there's like 20 napkins here written on. So I'm on the third one right now.
What is? Are you writing a book?
That's bigger than Kent's PhD.
I actually have that on my other screen because I went and pulled it up.
So
because it was so amusing.
I want to read this to MP more than anything else because I want MP's again, not his professional opinion per se, but MP. Does this make any sense to you? Are you there, MP?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So this is page 3. And he says, and he's referring to the landlord. He says, also, that stupid asshole downstairs, he's talking about changing the locks on the front doors, which, by the way, the sheriff's department had said to do. He said, after they evict him, change the front door locks. And he says, I've already told the judge everything. Now more contempt charges. The judge, when he received my mail, I sent him all of the court and sheriff's department notices. The judge put those notices... and the judge went to the sheriff himself. The location is the same address. On Tuesday, November 21st, which was the day that he was originally supposed to be out, 6 a.m., I was going to be removed. All of my $30,000 cash paid for expensive electronics, furniture, wardrobe turned over to the idiot landlord. It is now Friday, November 24th. I'm still here. The judge saw to that. I am staying as long as I want. Judge ordered. Now, here's what he doesn't understand, MP. When they came out and they gave him that 5-day notice after the unlawful detainer, and they said, look, when you put this on the door, you have 5 business days to get out, which ended on the 21st. But because it was Thanksgiving weekend, where I'm at, they do not do evictions during that week. So it now
that kind of sucked to throw people out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. No, it's okay with that. Yeah. But now what it did was it added more days to it. Now he's thinking because it is now the 26th that he's not going to get removed, and yet they're coming out tomorrow. I have a feeling.
So he's under the impression that because the notice wasn't really executed on the 21st, he got some type of stay of
right,
reprieve.
even though the sheriff told us that it won't be executed on the 21st.
Building up a little case against you guys too, with $30,000 worth of my stuff being removed, but yet I'm still here. I would, be a little careful of that. It's kind of crack too. But regardless of that, it seems like he seems to believe that since it wasn't executed on that particular day, he is free and clear because some judge intervention. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, one second. Have you ever heard of a judge doing anything like? I don't know where he gets this. It's weird. But go ahead. Yeah, G.
My question is for Heretic Woman. I just checked her profile and I noticed something on here. Heretic Woman. And you on your profile page, it says, I wanted to honor all the victims of religious genocide and oppression.
Yes.
Sadly, the internet isn't big enough. What do you mean by that?
It means that it happens so often that I would basically have to change my profile to some flag every day. So it's kind of a blanket statement.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering how come you don't want to honor those religious people that were killed because of secular people?
Well, because that falls under the same thing. That's a religious type of discrimination, is it not?
Okay, point made. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
So continuing on
All
here.
right. So you're admitting the people that killed these religious people, whether they be Christians, Muslims, or whatever, that they were religious when they were doing so, right?
Depends. It depends on which situation you're talking about.
Real quick, hang on, real quick.
I don't know.
Hang on,
Let Steve finish, and we can get back to
that. I'll pose it to the live chat because we have a lot of people watching. Do you guys want to listen to that, or do you guys want to hear more about this note because it gets better? It's totally up to you guys. I really don't care one way or another. But this is some crazy stuff. I'm telling you right now. You want to hear more than that? You want to read more note? It's completely up to the live chat. A note or heretic.
Come on, live chat.
Come on, live chat. You guys vote.
Shit, I gotta go vote in the live chat.
It's a democracy. You don't have to go to the live chat to vote. You can do it from here, MP. You just got to hear it.
Jade, are you there?
Hey, Steve, is it possible you can get that comedian lady on here?
Who?
Hello there, heretic. Hi.
Can you be more specific, G-Man?
And I was wondering, because there's a lag between watching outside and being in here. Did a heretic woman answer your question okay?
He thinks so.
Who's the comedian woman you're talking about?
That would be me, probably.
Comedy. There's a lady that does comedy on here. I responded to. I was hoping that.
Oh, a Canadian woman that does.
A Canadian that does comedy.
That lady with the black hair.
Black hair.
No. There's a lady with black hair. The name of her channel, I think, is called Atheist Comedy. I think the channel's called Atheist Comedy.
I've never heard
she
of
has black. She has a heart, and she sings all of this ridiculous stuff. I was hoping that you can get her on your channel one day.
I will look into it. If I find her, I'll see what I can do.
I'll give you a link.
Okay.
I'll give you a link.
All right, so people pretty much overwhelmingly has said for the note. Tom said for G-Man, but we don't listen to Tom. So sorry, Tom. I love you, Tom.
Let's hear the rest of the note.
This note thing is really intriguing me, Steve.
Yes. Crazy roommates.
Okay, he's talking about Kevin here. The asshole living in the tiny space below, the spy, he calls Kevin the spy, still using my bathroom and shower. More charges of contempt of court. Over 30 charges so far against all four of you. Only Derek is not to be charged at all. He lives upstairs. He's listened to the judges in court, stays away. After all that damage to my bathroom tub and shower, his bathroom tub and shower. I used a 5-star hotel in Hollywood, Beverly Hills, jacuzzi, bathtub, etc. All of you downstairs will see this notice. Since I've told the judge that Derek is not to be charged, Derek is the only one that follow the court judge's orders. So Derek will see the notice first. Then pass it downstairs. I can't even read this part. Jesus Christ. It's so bizarre.
Is it in...
Here we go. Wait. Quote, I have $60 million in cash invested with companies started 40 years ago. Chairman, president, CEO. Just like Amazing Mike, I'm the chairman, president, CEO of my empire in diamond supplies, emerald, rubies, gold, platinum, and high quality jewelry. I'm telling you, this is Von Elton. I'm not even lying. I created a masterpiece.
Why would you live in a trailer with y'all? And
this is not a trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you live in a house with everybody here is over 40? It's a
like with a bunch of roommates, like in a house with a bunch of roommates. If he had $60 million, if I had $60 million, I would live in a mansion. Hello.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know what it means to be human.
Oh, that's it.
He wants to be in touch with the little people.
That's right. He's not living life unless he lives like this. This is the only way he can experience life.
All my amazing wardrobe total $10,000 suit, $150 socks, $1,000 pairs of shoes. Oh my God. You don't even know what we're dealing with here.
Wow.
He says, "Amazing Mike."
You got to get him in one of these hangouts.
No, God, no. He said,
from a very remote, only from a very remote location once he's been evicted, right?
Yeah.
Why is he's talking about something in the third person? He's like, let's not forget Amazing Mike. That's what we call him. Since the first grade at a private school, very expensive tuition. A plus.
Steve, you're taking this kind of light because I'd be afraid that this
I
guy
am
knows
afraid.
where I live
No,
and
I
knows
think-
how
I
to get into the house and
MP,
everything. He's like crazy.
I think that we think that he's barricaded his door and he might have bought a firearm from somebody. We're not taking this light. He assaulted me. He grabbed my throat. You think I'm taking this lightly? I took his ass down and damn near killed him. But no, I'm not taking this lightly. But I have to make some light
Steve
of
at the
it.
time was coming out the shower butt ass naked too, so this just got personal and intimate.
I had a towel on.
Is this like the luxury signaling? Is this like virtual signaling equivalent of luxury signaling or something?
I
Like
think so.
He's like saying he's got all this stuff that is.
Oh, hey Steve, you might have a case for affluenza.
Affluenza.
Hey, Steve, the link.
He's affluenza. What, G-Man?
In the side chat.
Which
That's
side
the
chat?
lady I would like for you to get a hold of.
Oh, is in the group chat?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys got Darwin's Greatest Hits just put up the video from last night. Boy, they cut that fast.
I heard the link got taken down. Did he? Okay, I have it saved. I have it in my history now. So what happened? GD, Darwin's Greatest Hit put up a video up and now it's down?
No, it's up. It's up. It's still up. He just put it up about It's called Darwin's Deity on causation.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to Darwin's Deity's Greatest Hits about this prior to this hangout to try to. I didn't want to misrepresent Darwin's argument, so I was asking Darwin's Greatest Hits more about it because he probably knows more about Darwin than anybody, and I wanted to make sure that I had his argument correct, and I think I did. So
it probably is Darwin's for all we know. He's like, yo, man, I want to do this shit.
That's that. You know what? That's the current theory. Yeah, Darwin's Greatest Hits is actually Darwin's Deity.
Boy, that would be so cool. I would actually give him respect for that.
Huge.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate troll. That's the ultimate troll right there. He trolls like for life. It's like, what was that movie, The Illusionist, where the guy like lived as the magic trick? Was it The Illusionist with Christian Bale?
I don't know.
The Prestige. When the guy actually he was living, his life was the trick.
Oh, when he duplicates himself every time he goes through the box.
Thanks for ruining the movie.
Spoilers. You ever see that movie from 10 years ago? It's like ruining what's it called? The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. She makes it back to Kansas. I'm sorry.
It's like ruining, Rachel and things we get together.
Yeah. No, we lost MP.
He came back.
This note's scaring the fuck out of me. I mean, this is just surreal crazy.
Did he write that all out in cursive too?
No, it's all printed on, and I'm saying 20 napkins. He's printed it on front and back, all underlined.
Napkins.
Oh, napkins.
Why does he use napkins? Doesn't he have any paper?
Well, it's paper towel. Paper towel. I'm sorry. It's
he
paper
can write
towel.
it on the fucking money. That's what I would do to really show you. Like even have dollar bills.
Oh shit! Print it on, write it on $100 bills. I'll take it.
Like
or write it on
for real, right?
Steve.
Oh man.
Well, no, what he's doing is he's just actually writing it on all the expensive restaurant napkins. It's
paper towel. It's regular paper towel.
Or he just bleached the money. He's bleached the money.
Is it written in crayon?
No, I took a photo. Go on the GDC. I took a photo of one of the things. You can actually see what it looks like.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's in pen. It's just really crappy penmanship, and it's underlined.
Everything's underlined.
I guess
he underlined a handwritten note.
Yeah, everything's underlined. Every other word is
score underlined.
Every
It's
word
really
is underlined,
scary.
just about.
He wrote it like he's typing on the computer.
I guess we bored G-Man. He left.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they
Well, I don't know. He kind of sounded like he wanted to get into something.
Yeah, no, we're kind of like.
I would have, but I don't. But this is Steve's room, man. Like,
Well, I don't give a
if he
shit if
wants
people
to talk
wanted
about
to
it another
change
time,
it.
that's
But people wanted to kind of
his,
know more about this
voice
note.
sounded pretty raspy.
Yeah, he's
so
probably better
I
off.
Yeah, he's probably just not feeling well. He wasn't like G-Man tonight. He was like G-Man sick, which is like normal person.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude.
G-Man needs to be sick more often. Is that what you're trying to say? Because he's halfway normal when he's sick. That's pretty sad.
He was like,
no, G-Man was 100% normal today. You cannot say anything that he did today
I have
was
nothing
bad.
bad.
He was normal. He was lucid. He was.
Yep.
He spoke well, and on top of that, he made good points.
I have nothing negative to say about his appearance in here.
No.
So if he was like that all the time, he might
that
actually.
That was not the G-Man that we know and love. That was another G-Man.
If he was like that all the time,
G-Man
he
Knight.
might actually be interesting to have on all the time. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe
But here
we
we go.
should give him a cold more often.
So MP,
Hey, do it, G-Man. Then you'll prove me right and Steve, more importantly, wrong.
he says MP. MP.
But you know what? No matter what people say about G-Man's online persona, like the guy plays chess and he's actually pretty good. You know, the guy plays. He plays sports. He runs. You know, I've met the guy in real life, and
I'm sure he has.
Even though he has this high energy level, he's not a dumb guy by any means. I think it's more persona online than it is like reality.
So MP, listen to this. He says in this note, he says, "Oh my God, this is like page 20. The judge is amazing, smart, and very experienced. He can deal with all four of you easy. Just like when the judge, after he received the sheriff's notice from me, the judge walked into the sheriff's department to put an end to your stupid attempts." It's like, what the hell does that even mean?
Well, hold on, was this ex parte? Like
there is no judge here,
instance,
MP.
If someone's speaking to the judge, you guys, I'm assuming you're the landlord, so you would know if he went to court.
There's no ex parte
right?
anything. The judge, there's no judge. This is all done through the clerk. This is all done through the clerk.
So you don't actually have a judge sign off on your orders of eviction like we do here, because we actually have judges sign off on our orders of eviction.
Well, at some point, I think it has to be signed off. But I mean, most of it's done through the clerk. Almost everything's done through the clerk, and then
it's all processed through the clerk, and then the judge rubber stamps it.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
Once it's rubber stamped, then it's an actionable document under legal law.
Yeah.
Once there's an actionable document,
there's
then
no
they
other...
can instruct people to go and do the eviction.
Listen.
But you can't go like interlocutor.
Listen, MP. He has not filed anything. He didn't file a response. He didn't file anything for the lawfully detainer. He did not file a motion to dismiss the default judgment. He filed nothing. The sheriffs around here...
So you more or less have a default judgment that you're executing.
Yes, there's a default judgment. They've already gave him the notice to vacate. There's already been a writ of possession given to the landlord to reacquire the room. They have said that they will be out here right after Thanksgiving, because 6 sheriffs have been out here already, few of them multiple times, and they're like, we'll help you get rid of this guy. So they very much want to come out here and get rid of this guy.
Very important. Did you tell the sheriff about this whole firearm scenario and all this other stuff?
Not
God
yet.
Forbid they do go there, and then the next thing you know, they hear firearm. The guy shoots somebody.
Well, we did.
And they're gonna pull up these videos and be like, "Hold on, the night before you were on there and said you thought he had a firearm and somebody got hurt."
We did tell them that he has claimed to be a master in firearms. We have told them that he said that he will call the police and ask for the SWAT team to come out. And so I had talked to one of the sheriffs when one of them came over, and I said, "Look, we don't want him calling the police and saying that the owner is pointing a gun at him, because that's what he said. He'd call and say that he's pointing a shotgun at him because he does have shotguns." And they're like, "Look, we've already notated all this. So if there's ever what happens is, I guess when you call in and you get the name and the address, it's already a docket that's already been set up. So it'll say on there these notes that of all this stuff. Then they kept record on the stuff. She's like, "Don't worry about that. It's not going to happen." So, although I don't.
This guy sounds more mentally ill than anything, Steve.
Obviously he's mentally ill, but his brother says no. His brother says no. He's not mentally at all. I'm like, clearly he is.
There's one bigger issue here too. That I think, Steve, you have to start learning how to pick fucking better roommates, man.
I didn't pick this guy, dude. I have no. Well, now wait. I had no.
Read about this in the news.
One second.
Will it be called the Great Bathroom Massacre? Or?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have say in it before. I do now, because now the landlord said, "Okay, anybody who comes in next, you guys have to actually interview them. You guys did it like because I told him initially, I was like, this guy's shit. I told him straight out, this guy's just whack job. And so did the other roommate.
I'm looking at the picture you put up of the other note, and when you said underline, wow, you meant underline.
Every word is underlined. Yeah, just about. Now,
like multiple times.
Imagine him.
I would call that a paper towel, by the way.
It is a paper towel. That's what I kept saying. It's a paper towel. But now imagine him doing that. Like this is the 7th or 8th note that he left. And now imagine 20 paper towels, all handwritten like that. And this is like he posted this under Derek's door, which is actually our cool roommate. He lives upstairs. The guy's like 280 pounds, all muscle. You don't want to mess around with him. He's a very nice guy, but he's huge. But yeah, the landlord just gave this to me because Derek just said, "What the fuck is this?"
Damn.
And Steve means below the belt line when he says he's huge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Jade makes a good point. Are you gonna like go for a big long walk when they come to work?
Fuck no, I'm gonna try to record it.
you gotta film that stuff, Steve.
That's what we've been telling him.
I want to. The landlord.
The
landlord said he's fine if people recording it if we ask the sheriffs and they're okay with it, which I'm assuming they would be.
Right. Yeah.
I can't imagine them saying no, because it's our property.
Steve, you should wear a shirt that says "Choke me, choke me."
Dude, I wanted him to choke me again. He got off so easy because there was nobody around.
If you really want to make friends, make sure you give them all bacon sandwiches. They appreciate it.
Or get one of those collars like they put on dogs it's got like
shock collar.
No, like what Dexter wears, with the spikes that go in.
Oh yeah.
Who knew Steve was into autoerotic asphyxiation?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, when Steve first told me the story, Steve was like, "I'm coming out the shower, I'm in a towel, sweating, and body glistening." The next thing I know, this man has his hand on my throat,
and not in a way I'm used to coming out of the shower too, right?
All my dreams are coming true.
Yeah, I was like, that used to be a good Saturday night for me, but whatever.
Is that too soon to say the Carradine method?
Yeah, it's been over
or choke food.
But all jokes aside, though, Steve, I would be kind of concerned for my personal safety.
I am
concerned
that I am
still going to live there after he moves out. So
Oh, I've already said. Look,
like,
he gets escorted out unless he's in handcuffs. He's going to try to get back in. I've already said there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't realize it. Do you think he's realizing that he's leaving?
No.
Steve, if somebody who's writing those notes don't realize shit,
exactly.
If you have to ask that question,
I'm being facetious. No, he has no idea because, like I said, he really thinks because they didn't come out on the 21st that he has this magical, mystical judge that he's created in his mind, saying that this is all bullshit and that we're the ones who are getting evicted. And it's like, no, I have all the paperwork. I've read all the paperwork, all the documents. It's all him going after him.
That'd be like the ultimate twist if they come and they say, "Steve McCrae, you've been evicted." He's actually staying.
No.
You gotta do a hangout if that happens.
The landlord, because look he actually
Where's he gonna do a hangout from then?
Yeah, exactly. The library.
They gotta go to a public library. Like, oh my god, this shit actually happened.
He took the notification off his door and he put it on the landlord's door, thinking that it somehow changed.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, not kidding.
Oh.
That'd be almost worth hiring some actors or something and come in as police officers and evict you, Steve, just to see his reaction.
Why do I just see like Bruce Willis? Are you classified as human? No, I'm a meat popsicle. It just ran through my head when you said that. Like you moved the notification.
In one of the other notes, he had said that he ordered Kevin, the other roommate, to go to L.A. and stay there, and that he said that the landlord's going to be living in a tent up on the hills. And so, like the other day, we knew that Kevin was going out of town this weekend. He's in L.A. right now. He's going to be back any time. And we were just like, Kevin, we're really going to miss you, man. I'm sorry that you have to go to LA and that he ordered you out and it kind of sucks. And he's gone. He's been gone for like 2 days now. And so this guy's like, oh yeah, they're listening to me. It's like, okay.
Yeah, he doesn't have the ability to like listen through the ventilation system.
No,
or
he can't.
does he?
Not that it matters.
Well, I just thought that would be funny because he'd be listening to you talk about him all the time and coming up with more weird shit to write down.
I'll tell you what, he
you'd
is
think he'd go to
consistent, though.
You know, he's got to know you have hangouts and stuff. You'd think he'd come to
No,
these
he doesn't.
and
He doesn't
listen
know.
in.
No, the landlord,
Yeah.
the landlord knows, and Kevin knows. They'll listen in, but he doesn't know what a hangout
Right.
is.
And
Okay.
Steve, if anyone like me who's tech savvy ever goes that bat nut crazy, then yeah, your room would be bugged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh man.
He says,
That's
oh, I just read this part.
fucked up.
He says, I will take over 3 years to. Oh wait, by the way, my 20,000 square foot mansion, $60 million, will start construction this spring, 2018. It'll take over over 3 years to complete. So I will be here for quite a while. I'm the perfect renter.
What the fuck?
That's what it says right here. So I will be here for quite a while. 11.
Oh, that
11
explains
years. I
why
think
he's
it
not
puts in
living
here.
in a mansion yet.
Oh yeah, he has to build the mansion.
I
So
don't know.
he's
The
gonna
choice.
rent with 4 people.
Do I
Yeah.
say it the Hyatt or do I house share?
Yeah.
Room
Yeah.
service. Steve, hold on a second. Do you do good room service, Steve?
I don't
Is
do
it
any
the
servicing
shiatsu
for
back
him.
massages that you
Yeah.
Just one of you stay in the bathroom and hand him towels when he's done washing his hands.
Yeah, I don't
That is
do anything in the
creepy
bathroom with
fucking
him. No. Fuck me. This is
Oh,
just
man.
these notes are just getting more bizarre all the time.
Well, like the one you put the picture of is where he's talking about his supermodel girlfriends and what else? Oh, he's got 30 gold medals in the Olympics.
Yeah.
In one Olympic, he got 30 gold medals in one Olympics.
How
Yeah,
diluted
no,
is
no. He would have. He wait.
Extremely.
He got an Olympic gold medal for fly fishing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I'm not
was a
kidding.
sport, right?
No. Seriously, actually, he followed the manual by J.R.R. Hartley. And that is only funny to a very few very old British people of my age. So it's a really crap joke.
Yeah, I'm not following that one, Druss.
It was the Yellow Pages. We used to have a phone book that was Yellow
Oh, yes.
Pages, and they always used to look for, oh gosh, I'm trying to find this book, and it was this little old man that was looking for the book that he wrote in his youth on fly fishing, and he found it thanks to the Yellow Pages, and everybody in Britain remembers that advert because it kind of just like touched
Right.
a heartstring at the time.
Hey, MP.
You used to have Yellow Pages here too in America, but
Yeah, we do too in Canada.
Hey, MP.
Actually, we still have them. My husband keeps them because he has a landline. I'm like, sweetie, what do we need that shit for?
MP.
Well,
he also
I have a landline, but that's because I live in the middle of nowhere.
Telemarketers
Yeah.
can call you then.
Well,
Shit, did MP leave?
well, he has the what? Huh?
Where did MP go? I just looked up and I saw he's gone.
I think he dropped out. Yeah, but no, I meant what do we need the Yellow Pages for? Like I know he's had the landline forever, and the company he uses actually has a feature that they maintain a list of known telemarketing numbers, and if you get called by a telemarketer, you can add that number to the list to be blocked. So he likes that because, I mean, there's nothing I have seen upset a Zen Buddhist more than a telemarketer.
The Zen
I'm
Buddhist.
trying to politely say no, and you won't let me.
So Druss, the whole eviction notice that he got, it says it's worthless. It's worthless, more worthless than the paper is written on, just like the last notice. It took over a week and I'm still here. Also, don't even think about changing the front door locks. More contempt of court charges, more jail time for you all. It's like, okay.
No, that's not like a jailable offense.
No, they
I
told
mean,
us to change the locks too. They even said after we come out to remove him, either he has two options: either to leave the premises after 10 minutes, or he goes away in handcuffs. That's it. There's no other options. And they said you need to change the locks right after he does that. I'm going to do my damnedest to have this recorded tomorrow. I'm hoping that I could do one handheld. Kevin has a cell phone,
right?
Or I have something here maybe I can use. And I have a webcam set up on the other computer, so between all this stuff, I want to get some video of this. So I'm not making any promises. But if the sheriff's department says, yeah, go ahead and videotape it, I'm going to. And so you guys at least, it may not have, well, if they say we can do audio, that's great. But I definitely can do it without audio. So if he gets, taken away in handcuffs, you'll see.
But that would be much more interesting to have audio.
The live eviction hangout.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I was just going to record it, but you're right. I could actually broadcast that in real time, huh? If they say it's okay,
there you go.
If they say it's okay, I'll have it ready to go on the computer. All I gotta do is hit start. Maybe
right, and then you can have it. It'll be saved to your channel. That way, you don't even have to worry about uploading it. It'll just be there.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know the other computer will definitely. The other computer's pretty powerful. You can definitely do it. All right, so
I was going to say, if your police people are clever, they'll say, "Come and watch us evict your other flatmates," and he'll come downstairs, and then they can just escort him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Steve, how do you know you're not the crazy one, huh?
How do you know I'm not the crazy one?
We don't.
You know what?
Pair of socks is the crazy.
Yeah. I could have written these notes.
I have divine revelation.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
wasn't there something on there about him trying to work for, or the Olympic Training Center has been trying to get him to coach for 45 years?
Yeah, because he has expertise and everything. But you don't know.
The Jamaican bobsled team?
I could be writing these notes. Yeah, I could be the one that they're. Hey, wait, is my name Mike? Wait, could be. No. No.
Are you sure you're not one of those brains we were talking about in the other hangout?
Boltzmann brain.
Yeah, Boltzmann brain.
Yeah, I'm having an existential crisis. I don't know. Do I exist? I'm not sure.
Yes, but wasn't the balsam brain? He had to, as soon as he became aware of himself, he has to cease to exist.
Yeah, something like that. It only lasts for a second or something, right?
Yeah. So we're still here. I don't know.
Well, like I said, if they come out, I think they're coming out tomorrow. They'll probably come out mid-afternoon. I can't imagine them not coming out tomorrow. But we'll see. Maybe a Tuesday. But
I'm sorry that he had to put up with this level of crazy.
Oh, it's been 2 months like this. It's been drama. I mean, he's just. When you have the sheriff's department comes out here 6 times because he called the police because you peed in his toilet, because I unlike most people, I kind of pee before I go take a shower, right? I'm not saying that I haven't ever used a shower to pee, and every guy in the world has, but I tend to use the restroom before I take a shower because I like to get all clean, right? He just goes nuts over that. He just goes freaking nuts.
What, that you're not allowed to pee before you take a
he
shower?
He thinks the bathroom upstairs is his property.
Ah.
It's weird. He has this weird thing about toilets. He's a germaphobe.
Okay. Right.
So if you pee on his toilet, you don't have to take a dump. If you just pee in it, you're contaminating his toilet with germs, even though urine's sterile. Yeah, he's full on nutter.
Well, that's why it's really good to put down the shower drain.
Even if it weren't, your pee is no more or less sterile than his pee. What's the difference? Pee is pee.
He's the nutter.
Yep.
Well, I'm happy about me touching my penis, but I wouldn't really want to touch yours.
But that's not good. I don't think touching penis.
But that's not what Steve's asking him to do.
Yeah, I'm not asking him to hold it for me while I go. I know how to aim.
Choking something else.
Well, maybe that's it. That's why guys do it in the shower, because then nobody has to hold it.
God, this note is so bizarre. You guys don't even know.
We never actually do it. It's a foul rumor that never happens.
I'm still trying to figure out why on napkins. Doesn't he own paper, or does he just like paper?
He goes on to say,
what the heck?
"This is 30 pages, 30
well,
napkins
if you look
long."
at the picture, it's like a paper towel.
Yeah.
Maybe he's afraid to ask somebody to borrow paper. He doesn't have any, so he's afraid to ask people who actually have paper, like maybe Steve. I don't know.
I'll give him paper he wants to write notes. I've got paper.
Write you an Instagram.
But he says, I'm going to tell you, you're all in big trouble. Big trouble.
Okay.
Buy him a notebook as an early Christmas present.
There you go.
But
Give him
I'm
a
telling you,
composition book.
he is consistent, though. His story is consistent because I mean that's why I know he's delusional. He says, "Amazing Mike has been teaching supermodel girlfriends since 1980 martial arts, self-defense, firearm safety, shooting, and marksmanship. I have been."
Wait, how old is he?
He's 60
but in his other one, he says 40 years. Well, 1980 is not 40 years.
He sucks at math.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Well, yeah, it's almost 40 years, 37 years.
Almost.
Okay.
Okay.
I have been
Yeah,
beating.
but how old is this guy?
60 something. I have been beating all adults in firearms, archery, and all weapons since I was 7 years of age in national competition matches. Scouts,
Why
coaches
haven't we
for the-
heard of you until this note?
Scouts, coaches for the Olympic teams USA have been trying to get me to play for them for 30 years in martial arts, firearms, safety, and archery for 45 years. They have all said that I could win over 30 gold medals in one Olympics. I mean, like I've said, his story is like the same every time. So this is some narration that he has had in his head. This is what he wrote in the
that's
other
what the
notes.
other note says.
This is what he writes in all the notes.
Exactly.
It's verbatim.
Yeah.
There's no different. Literally.
What the hell?
He has every note
Tom
says.
34B says, "Wait, Steve, your roommate is Steven Seagal."
Could be. No, Steven Seagal.
Actually, I was thinking, man, this guy thinks that he's Chuck Norris or something. But
Steven
I was gonna say-
Seagal fits better.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal actually has more credibility than this guy, though.
Yes, that's kind of scary.
Maybe he's God.
Hey Floyd, I saw you sneak in. Did you want to add anything? I don't want to keep this open too much longer unless you guys are really bored, and I'll keep it open for that. But I'm not letting anybody else in because I think we had a troll come in or try to get in, so I closed the hangout so nobody can join. So whoever's in here is in here, but I'll leave that open if you guys want to. Floyd,
I'm going to go to bed pretty soon because it's quarter to one here.
did you want to add anything to this real quick, Floyd? Did you want to add anything to the initial topic before I go off here?
Yeah, the initial topic about Dee Dee's last, crap. My advice on if you wish to engage him, I don't recommend engaging him at all. He's just a troll. He's a bully. He tries to belittle people and takes advantage of people that aren't as well versed in philosophy. The way he is, which isn't much at all. I think he has a very, elementary, simple view of philosophy. He's not well read at all. But if you actually do wish to engage him, I would answer him the way he answers his own questions. When he asks, in an atheistic worldview, how do you account for the law of causation, for example, as we brought up in the last, hangout. Well, how does he answer it? The way he answers is he just says what he believes, what his religion says. His religion says that God created a universe where causation exists. Well, as an atheist, we can just answer. We can answer the same way. God has a nature, and he created the universe in such a way where it has causation. Well, we can just answer, well, in my worldview, there is a universe that has a nature in which causation exists, and that's it. If he says, well, how do you know that? Well, how do I know that? Oh, I can know things because my senses are reliable because the universe has the properties in which it can create human beings. Which have reliable senses and cognitive abilities. All you're saying is what you believe, and that's all he's saying. So he's doing an external critique. He's simply just attacking someone else's presuppositions and wanting you to justify them. And obviously, you cannot justify your presuppositions, but you have to use them.
And his questions, it's not like his questions are like bad questions. It's the problem I have with his questions is that they're dishonestly asked.
Right. And he's just trying to dupe people.
He leads you. He does.
But if you really wish to engage him, and I do not recommend engaging him at all. If he was in a hangout of mine and I saw him, I would instantly kick him.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's worthless.
I've said that. I've said that from day one. Now, I mean, I will let him come in here, But I don't ever go into anywhere he's at, and I will never engage with him. I agree with you 1,000%. But I do have a
I'm done with
rule.
him as well.
But I have a rule though, Floyd, and I want to be fair. If we discuss somebody, they have a right to come in. I think that's only fair. That's my hangouts. Anybody else in the GDC, you can do the hangouts they want. But I think Dragnot has that same kind of rule, and I think it's a good rule to have. But
yeah, but if he wants to do proper presuppositionalism, it should be an internal critique of worldviews. So you can simply just state what your worldview is, and he can't say, "How do you know that?" No. This is my ontology. This is what my worldview says. Because that's all he says. He says, "My worldview says this." Well, my worldview says this as well. You can't
He's
question.
presupposed God. We presuppose causation.
Yeah, you can just take what he says, cross out the word God, and just put. And then replace it with reality or the universe or the nature of existence.
Yeah,
As your final authority.
Atheism really isn't a worldview to start with, really.
Right.
yeah, and you know what's funny is I was reading something by who Kenneth Samples is.
But his challenge is based on a godless universe. Why is X the case? And the example, the last example was causation. That was the example. In a godless universe, why is it the case that causation exists?
Which is a fair question. But that's a fair question to ask. Yeah. But again, he asked it disingenuously because there may not be an answer to that. Some people argue causation doesn't exist; it's an illusion.
Right.
Well, in my worldview, there's a God who basically created a universe that has causation, and and his God's nature is his nature. Did God create his own nature? Did God cause himself to have his nature? No, God is just the way he is. We can answer the same way. The universe is just the way it is.
Yeah,
and the universe.
But that doesn't that seem to violate?
I mean, that's one possibility.
Sufficient
I
reason.
Think of it's always been that way.
But
it's a good reductionist argument, and it does actually take a lot of steam out.
But doesn't that violate PSR? Not that I hold a PSR, but PSR.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, do you hold to the principle of sufficient reason? Does everything need to have a reason, or can there just be brute facts in reality, or
not to DD?
Or in any possible world, can there simply be brute facts?
DD does not accept brute facts. DD is adamantly. He thinks that brute facts are dishonest for some reason. I'm like, what?
Oh, okay.
I guess
he needs to give a sufficient reason for the existence of his God. That's a brute fact.
People have told him that. It's the same principle. He just arbitrarily decides that it's that God is the exemption of everything. His God is the exemption of everything.
Yeah, I guess I can say that the law of causality is metaphysically necessary.
I don't think it's metaphysically necessary. Yeah. I think causality. Wait, hang on. I think causality and cause and effect is something that we observe and we think that something we think that exists. I don't think there's a metaphysical necessity for it.
No, I don't buy it.
But all he says is God's nature is what it is, and there's no need for any further explanation. We can say the same thing about reality and the universe.
I mean, theists say that
reality is the way it is, and we have no further need for explanation.
Like theists say stuff like this all the time, man, without justification. That God's existence is necessary. Oh yeah. They don't have a good argument for it. So I mean. I can do the same thing.
But again, that goes to justification.
He's a one-trick pony. What he does is he'll pick one of the properly basic beliefs, and he'll attack that. So every week he can come in with kind of like which appears as a new argument. Say, oh, well, today I'll talk about causation. Next week I'll talk about the problem of induction. The following week, I'll talk about justifying the reliability of your senses. The week after that, I'll bring up solipsism. The week after that, I'll bring up brain into that, or last Thursdayism. And it seems like it's all new arguments, but all he's doing is he's just attacking standard properly basic beliefs or presuppositions that we all hold.
Well, these are all
it's
these
the
are
same
all
argument.
these are all chestnut philosophical arguments. I mean, these things have been around for a while. He thinks that he's solved them all by positing a deity, and he also goes against people that have probably never heard of a lot of these things.
Exactly. We talked about this before. He's a green belt, beating up on white belts. And when when the Pal Talk Power Rangers come in as black belts, they kick his ass. He has a very rudimentary, understanding of philosophy. He's very basic view on philosophy. And but the people he likes to attack have very little understanding of philosophy.
Yeah, but see, he doesn't want to. See, when I have these hangouts and we talk about these topics, I want to learn about them. Most of the time, I'm having these hangouts not because I'm explaining it to people. I want them to explain it to me. I know what the problem induction is. I know what these terms are, but I don't have a great understanding of them because I'm not a philosopher. I want experts and people that know about these things to come in.
We're having a discussion about the problem of induction. I want Alex Malpass or Ozzy here.
Yeah, exactly.
Or someone well schooled. But Darwins does not want that. He wants the most uneducated.
That's my point. We want to learn about these
philosophically naive people so he can abuse them.
But see, Darwin's doesn't want to learn about these things because if Darwin's learned about these things, he wouldn't have an argument. He wouldn't even have. He would know how foolhardy he is when he says a lot of things like saying induction is circular, right? Because I don't think he understands that that's not the problem. Induction is not circular. Justification of induction using induction would be circular. But you're
trying to justify induction with deduction.
With induction,
induction.
I don't think there's a way to do that.
Is a totally different, justification for an argument. There's a reason why. There's a separation between deduction and induction and
right, but he thinks because the problem of justification of induction exists that you can't use induction, which is just stupid. We use induction all the time.
Well,
every day you have induction.
These fundamentalists, I think they're intellectually and emotionally immature. They want a black and white image of reality, and they want simple, certain answers for everything. And if you notice the way philosophers act, true philosophers, they're very cautious. They're very guarded on what they claim because they're aware of all the problems with all these different metaphysical positions.
Well, have you ever noticed, like with Alex, who I love Alex to death. He's like one of the most brilliant people. If you want to learn philosophy or anything, or have your things that you're talking about critiqued, Alex is the man to go to. But you notice Alex doesn't really take positions that much.
Yeah, right. Because he knows the problems with all these positions.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a problem with Aristotelian deductive logic as well. But
the square of opposition is a problem in Aristotelian logic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's lots of problems, but these fundamentalists, they come in saying Aristotelian logic is absolute, it's unchanging, and so forth.
No, because in Aristotelian logic, I can have something like like the chestnut one. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. But that doesn't apply in actual logic. I mean, it's P, Q, and R, which is Aristotelian, but it doesn't follow if you have that structure in classical logic. I'm trying to remember exactly. It's just the way it's set up. It's fine in Aristotelian form, but not in classical. And I was reading about this the other day. Guess who sent? Wait. Guess who sent? Wait. Hang on. Guess who sent me something to read and said, "Hey, Steve, since you're trying to learn more about this, here's some sources." Guess who sent me that, Floyd? Alex.
Who's that?
Right, because Alex knows the sources to send people. Right.
Oh yeah, right.
So Alex was sending me stuff on it. I'm not going to trust something that like DD's giving me a source. Because DD doesn't want anybody to learn this stuff.
No. Yeah, he just. Again, he just wants to take advantage. He'll read something from one of his fellow presuppositionalists. Like Matt Slick's the same way. He says, all that exists is Aristotelian logic and nothing else. It's just very,
But there are flaws in Aristotelian logic, as I noted. The square of opposition is a flaw in Aristotelian logic.
Yeah, exactly. But they think it's perfect, and they're not aware of non-classical logics and so forth, and they don't want to talk about it because they don't know anything about it.
What did you listen to the hangout they had with the guy Hyper Calvinist who didn't understand that there was types of paraconsistent logic where you don't have the LEM, and he was blown or that Aristotle himself argued against the LEM. He actually deleted his G plus. I think he was so when he found out that Aristotle himself, after Malik had told me that, and I looked into it, that Aristotle actually argued against the law of excluded middle, that he was so pro Aristotelian logic, and I'm like, here's Aristotle himself saying that the LEM shouldn't be, and he didn't know what to do with that. His whole world came crashing down because they think that the laws of logic, ergo my God, exist.
Yeah. No. Carnegie's.org just released a video today.
I love his videos.
He's doing a thing on presuppositionalism, and the last one was Aristotle versus presuppositionalism, and he brought up a good point that logic changes every day, and that we should view logic like as a tool, as a weapon. Weapons change every day. Originally a weapon would be like a stone, and then eventually, there'd be like knives or swords and so forth, and then there are guns, and then there's bombs and nuclear weapons and so forth. Those tools, those weapons have changed throughout history, and logic has changed since Aristotle's time as well. But they'll argue, the law of non-contradiction has never changed. Well, a stone as a weapon to crack open someone's skull hasn't changed either. But there's been more tools,
more effective ways,
and new applications where a stone doesn't work. You need something better, and that's why there's other
somebody has a helmet, a
logic.
stone's not going to work, but a nuclear weapon, they're dead.
Right. I mean, you can say the laws of chess has not changed, or 1 + 1 has never changed through time, but there's been new tools and new maths and new forms of chess and so forth that have developed. But they want a static, black and white, small little universe where they have certain answers for every philosophical question that you could dream of, and that makes them feel very comfortable.
If there's simple answers to these philosophical questions, then philosophers wouldn't be quandering over them so long. And as I'm finding out, as I read more about philosophy, once I think I got a handle on something, it completely screws me up somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, but you notice these academic philosophers are very guarded in what they say, and they won't overcommit because they're aware of all these different positions and they all have certain amount of problems. So Alex Malpass said himself, he says, I'm metaphysically neutral. I think he said in regards to a lot of these positions because he's aware of it all. I'm sure he leans to one or has has beliefs that this is more valid than this one, and
but unless he can prove it, I don't think he's going to be committing to something.
Right.
I mean, he'll commit to something as a deductive proof.
But again, I guess my original point was, if you actually wish to engage Deity, which I do not recommend at all, your strategy should simply be, when he says justify whatever needs to be justifying within your worldview, just simply state what you believe. Simply state what your worldview says. With causation or with induction. Well, with induction, there's still problems with induction, but you can say we exist in a universe where nature is uniform. But that still doesn't guarantee induction.
But see, here's the problem with that, Floyd, and I agree with you. But here's the problem: what Darwin's is going to do is Darwin's going to try to get somebody who doesn't understand problems like saying, I'm going to justify induction with induction, or they don't understand that by saying the uniformity of nature, my experience is that it hasn't changed. That I'm actually doing, a fallacy, because look I can't say that the uniformity of nature has never changed. Therefore, I can use the uniformity of nature. That's circular. But he's trying to get people to use those kind of arguments, and I don't know who he's trying to show those arguments to. Is he just? I mean, obviously, I think he's trying to make himself feel better, because half the time people have no idea if somebody's making a a mistake in how they're arguing, because I think it's fine to use inductive reasoning. We do it all the time. Darwin's is going to try to convince somebody that inductive reasoning is circular, and then they realize, oh, that's bull. If he knows, if he figures out that this guy knows what they're talking about, you're like, okay, and then induction's fine, and they'll move into, well, how do you justify induction?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is when you catch him in a circular argument, which I've done quite a few times. Okay, I'll catch you.
It's virtuous.
He'll say. He'll claim that not all circular reasoning is invalid, which is a special pleading. Oh, when is it valid? Oh, when I use it. I mean, that's what he's saying. It's a
virtuous circle. The virtuous circle, as he calls it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe. Go ahead. Make a point.
It's another double standard. He's a hypocrite. It's truly a waste of time to engage him. And again, if I had mods in a hangout and he popped in, boom, I'd kick him right away, because he's not interested in a civil conversation. There's something in philosophy called intellectual charity, where when you're engaging with someone, you're trying to put their argument in the best light as possible. You're actually trying to understand. Yeah, you're actually trying to understand their argument. If there's flaws with it, perhaps you're trying to understand how maybe they mean this, which would make more sense, or so forth. You're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But Darwin's will not give
most
any
people in our community
at all.
And I've seen this so many times. I know Sokka does it. I know Nicola does it. I know a lot of people do this. Dave S. will do it. They'll actually go out of their way to try to help out somebody who has a bad argument, make it better, no matter who it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
I do that all the time.
The trouble you have with Darwin's Deity is, as soon as he as what was saying, as soon as he realizes you're on to kind of the argument, he'll start to play a shell game, and he'll start to swap the intent and the meaning of some of the dialogue and the words that he's using to try and draw you into the new side of the argument, whether that's moving from induction to causation, or the uniformity of nature, or the fact, the immutable laws of logic, or however else he wants to try and run his argument.
Yeah.
But listen, when Darwin's Deity gets caught, when Darwin's Deity gets caught, though, he only asks one question: how do you know that? That's his go-to question whenever he gets in the tangle.
And he gets upset.
Well, how do you know that?
Yeah, what he'll do is this: he'll ask that question, MP, and then if people are just answering whatever, he'll be like, "Oh, this guy's just a troll. Get rid of him."
There's actually another person that I've kind of noticed that kind of has a similar MO, although he's way more intelligent about it, and that's Rodney Mulroney.
Rodney Mulroney definitely knows the same thing. He knows a lot of stuff, though. I mean, Rodney Mulroney is a smart guy.
He is a smart guy. He'll bring the math, he'll bring the logic, but he tends to insert things where
I've seen him.
They're not. He'll use dichotomies where it's not a dichotomy, for example.
I've seen him run some theist things.
Yeah.
I was like,
but he'll say, how do you, basically, how do you know that your epistemology can lead to knowledge? So what he's saying is, how do you justify your epistemology with your epistemology?
Yeah, that's
clearly
circular.
That's circular.
Yeah, totally.
How does he answer? He invokes his ontology. He says, "Oh, well, this is the way reality is, in which I can know things." Again, we can use the same.
That's what I was going to say. That we do the same thing. Anybody can do that.
Yeah, this is it says. I gave 3 presentations on presuppositionalism, and I talk about this more in detail. But he justifies his epistemology with his ontology, and we can do the same. You just invoke your ontology, what exists in reality, which if is the case, can bring about whatever we need to account for. And that's all he's doing. My God created the universe in such a way that X happens. Well, we can just say the universe has the nature in such a way in which X can happen. And that's it. And of course, he'll say, "Oh, how do you know that?" That would be an external critique at that point, and he'd be begging the question against your worldview. If you're going to do proper presuppositionalism, it's a contest between worldviews. This is what my worldview has, and you do not question it. This is what my worldview has, and by examining what my worldview has, doesn't make sense? Is there any contradictions or whatever? Versus this worldview, this is what this worldview has. And is there any contradictions or so forth? That is true presuppositionally. Presuppositionalism,
Darwin's deity's
worldviews. But what he does is he questions the very foundation of other worldviews. That's an external critique. And that's not internal critique that Cornelius Van Til talks about that they need to perform.
But Darwin's deity's worldview doesn't solve anything. It doesn't get him out of it. Doesn't resolve any of these problems.
Speculation.
Yeah,
and this view that only the Christian worldview is internally consistent, I totally disagree. The Bible's full of contradictions, and the Trinity. The Trinity is logically coherent. The whole foundation is on a Trinity that's a mystery that violates the principle of transitivity of identity.
I think the whole thing with the Trinity is the whole thing with the Trinity is so convoluted that I don't think anybody understands the Trinity. And all these people, because I don't get the Trinity concept at all. I think it's not coherent. I think absolutely incoherent. But these people that
God's supposed to be so beyond us that that's not even supposed to. Us finite beings can understand the infinite. That's supposed to be impossible.
But so boy, there's actually a position called Mysterianism that basically it's so mysterious that we can't understand it. That's not a position though.
Yeah. You're invoking a mystery? Okay, I invoke a mystery of why the universe is the way it is.
Exactly.
The universe is in such a way that causation can happen and induction can be reliable. Why does the universe have such a nature? It's a mystery.
I don't know is a good answer.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, but they don't want that. Fundamentalists, again, they need to have certain answers for everything. But when you ask them about their foundational beliefs, they'll argue in a circle like anyone else would.
But magic isn't an explanation.
Well, Darwin just wants people to. He wants to try to convince people that he has answers that he doesn't have. That's it.
Yeah,
he really doesn't.
It's all religions basically try to do that. They say they have answers to questions that you can't possibly, or maybe right now we can't possibly have an answer to.
Yeah,
where the universe comes from. We kind of get there, but we get stuck at a certain point, and beyond that, I don't know. That's a perfectly honest, good answer.
Have you ever listened to Veckel trying to explain the Trinity?
I try to avoid Veckel.
Many Christians, in explaining the Trinity, will invoke what's called modalism. Different modes.
That's heretical.
Yeah, exactly. So if they say stuff like, God's like water. It can be in like ice or steam or in liquid. That's modalism. That's a heresy. That's saying, okay, there's one being. He's just presenting himself in three different ways. Like water can be ice or steam.
I don't see heavy theologians doing that. I see
the Trinity is supposed to be three distinct persons.
Well, nature's got that beat though, because we also have plasma.
Yeah.
But do you think it's kind of weird that they'll say they're three distinct people, personages, but they're somehow related, and yet they'll be all on this laws of logic and the principle of identity, but they're saying three things are one, and they're distinct, but they're the same.
Yeah,
it's just it.
Yeah, or they'll say no, it's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. It's 1 × 1 × 1 = 1. Well, what exactly does that mean?
I have no idea.
Because you can
convert mathematically, but
you can convert multiplication into addition. When you say 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, that's the same way of saying 1 × 3 = 3. You have one unit 3 times, that gives you 3. That's the same as saying 1 + 1 + 1. Now, if you say 1 × 1 × 1, okay, you have one person, one time. That does not account for the three persons. So saying one times one times one, doesn't get you anywhere. Of course, how do you get 3? 3 has to be a part of the equation. So if you say 1 times 1 times 1, where is 3 in that equation? It's not there. So that
Trinity
doesn't work.
3. Yeah, you're not getting the 3 anywhere.
Yeah, you don't get 3 in that equation. Oh, but 1 is listed 3 times in my equation. Well, no, that's not what the multiplication sign means. It means you have 1 unit, you multiply that 1 time, so you have 1.
I get hung up on little details in the Bible too, like when he tells Abraham what to tell his people his name as, or was it Moses? I forget what it was, but anyway, he says, "Well, what should I tell my people what your name is?" My name is I am.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? My name is I am.
He was the great I am. Well,
Yeah,
Darwin's
Popeye,
Greatest Hits
yeah.
makes another point. Darwin's in the live chat, he says the Trinity especially doesn't make sense in Trey's divine simplicity. I guess he's talking about Dre Janlo. How do you have divine simplicity where the God is a whole without any parts, and yet there's 3 parts? These things just seem to I don't know. It just confuses me how they throw all these different things out there. It's like they want to explain something that just doesn't make sense to begin with, and so they have to have mental gymnastics like I've never seen before in order to explain these things.
Yeah, some theologians reject the concept of divine simplicity because of that problem. But I think the popular thing now is what's the term? Apathetic, I believe. It's described
apathetic.
Yeah, it's described something in negative terms only.
Yeah, that's taking that's taking God's qualities in his what he isn't.
Yeah, exactly. So you're describing what God isn't. But okay, well, tell me what God is. I can't do that.
Yeah, that seems to be popular nowadays. They're taking that apathetic approach.
So it's like an artichoke. You take an artichoke and you peel away all the leaves.
Yeah.
And after you peel away the leaves, there's nothing left. And that's how I think that's what it's like when they describe God. They start peeling away, all these views, and then at the end of the day, you're really left with nothing. So my view is, God. You're left with atheism at the end of the day.
Floyd, I would like to ask you, under this particular process, I'm just trying to think it out. It would be hard to describe anything by describing what it's not. For instance, I'm trying to describe a dog. It's not a cat. It's not a horse. Like, how would I eventually get to describing, or for you to know that I'm talking about a dog if I can only describe it by what it's not?
Well, you try to describe something, by its identity. Its certain attributes. So with a dog, it barks. It has a tail, fur, and so forth. Of course, there's exceptions to all that, right? You can have a dog without a tail. You can have a hairless dog, like you have a hairless cat, and so forth.
But remember, we're trying to describe it in terms of what it's not. So it's not a cat. It's not a person. It's not. It's not. It doesn't not lack fur. Like in trying to do that, I can never see how you can actually get to in some way reasoning with the other person can understand. I'm actually talking about a dog by only trying to tell me what it's not.
It's like trying to play a game of 20 questions with infinity questions.
I thought it was more like God's not long-suffering. God's not a vengeful God. God is not the things that are God, the attributes that God does not have. I thought that's what apathetic. I pronounce that word. I know what it is, but
apathetic.
Apathetic. I think it is.
It's spelled APOPHATIC. Apathetic, I believe.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I know what it is. People don't talk about that often, but I knew that it's relating God's qualities and negatives instead.
Yeah, but usually when you think of something, the law of identity, something has an identity, and you can distinguish it from something else. You can distinguish an orange from an apple, based on its shape, perhaps its color, its the skin, the flavor, and so forth. You can give positive attributes and qualities to it. But yeah, I mean, if you just say, what's the difference between a horse and a car? Okay, well, a horse doesn't have wheels. Well, a lot of things don't have wheels. So I mean, that's not good enough. It would be better to say, well, a horse has 4 legs and a long tail and a mane and so forth.
My feeling is I don't think that you can describe anything by just describing what it's not, because unless you can just say it's not everything else and literally go through the line and describe every single thing in infinitum, then I don't think you can ever get to this is a dog.
What
Because
it is.
trying to describe something by telling me what it isn't, it's how do you ever get to the point of the person being able to understand what you're talking about? Like, trying to do it with anything, with a cat, trying to describe to me a person that's without assertions, just all telling me what it's not. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, this is where we talk about essences.
You need a frame of
essence,
reference.
In essence,
Well, yeah, I was gonna
essence
say,
refers to.
Because if the other person, like if you're going to talk about, say, I don't know, a Komodo dragon, and the other person has never seen or heard of a Komodo dragon before, you're going to be saying it's not this, that, and the other thing forever, and the person is never going to go, is it a Komodo dragon?
It's the Helen Keller problem of communication.
I think at some point you also have to lean on some form of pragmatism. What's pragmatic to simply describe what you're trying to describe, like an apple. When you describe an apple, do you need to explain an apple down to the atomic level, or and so forth? No, you just need to say, it's this shape. You can eat it. It has skin. It has a stem. It falls off a tree. Yeah, that's good enough. But you don't need to describe every single aspect of apple.
And describe all the different varieties and
can I clarify something that's going on in the live chat, because there seems to be confusion on nothing. Because I didn't finish it, but I read a lot of Krauss's book, Something from Nothing. People don't seem to understand there's 2 types of nothing that's being talked about. There's philosophical nothing and there's scientific nothing, or science nothing. Krauss what he's referring to from cosmology, when the universe from nothing, is scientific nothing, which is basically a vacuum without a quantum state. So you have quantum fluctuations, but there's still something that exists. So even if he says literally nothing, he's meaning nothing as in there's no material. Krauss and the rest of them, as scientists, do not talk about philosophical nothing. They don't ever say there's anything like philosophical nothing, because they have no idea whether philosophical nothing exists or not. We don't even know what the properties would be if it has any
virtual particles and things of that nature, because they pop into existence.
But that's not philosophical nothing. That's science. That's scientific nothing. They're 2 different ways of using this word nothing. And I see a lot of creationists confusing the 2, because they hear a scientist say something like literally from nothing, and they don't understand that the scientist is using it differently than what a philosopher would use it as. And the creationists do not seem to understand context at all.
It's the same thing with people who say evolution's just a theory. Like, they don't understand the way theory is being used.
But I think we do have to be fair, though, because he wrote that book, A Universe of Nothing, understanding that most people would have the aspect of a philosophical nothing, an absence of everything.
No, I don't think so, because in his 3rd chapter, the chapter's named something. This chapter's called Something from Nothing, and nothing is something. He actually goes out of his way to explain that when they say nothing, they actually mean something's there. So,
Steve, I understand that, and you've read the book, but I'm talking about the most people who are just out there who are trying to look for some answers. And he says a universe from nothing. Most people aren't saying, well, this is the scientific nothing, absent the everybody generally is going to be thinking about this is the philosophical nothing, absence of anything, and how is he coming to that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean,
so it's a clickbaity title.
It is. No, I totally agree with. I totally agree with that. He has to go, like, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd chapter where he starts actually explaining it in detail. But if you didn't know the difference, you would probably make it sound like he was talking about ex nihilo, which he's not. Which obviously is a little clickbaity, but
you've never actually seen ex nihilo. You can't even talk, like, the minute you start talking about, let's examine ex nihilo.
The only way I can relate to philosophical nothing is that before you existed, that would be that state, whatever that is. That's the only way I can even come close.
Like that,
I can only
that
come close
refers
to it.
T minus T before zero.
Yeah,
I don't think
the
I don't
molecules
think,
that make you up still exist.
I don't even know if the universe could be in a state of philosophical nothing. Scientists have no idea. They've never been able to experiment with nothing. They have no idea if the universe can be a nothing state. That's not what they're talking about when they say universe from nothing. They're talking about that the universe literally can become created through a process from expansion of a quantum fluctuation bubble. And that's what Krauss is talking about. That's been mathematically proven. That's not even conjecture. That's been proven that it could in theory.
Not nothing.
What's that? What's that, Scott?
I say space itself is something. I mean,
well, that's the whole point.
Even the space between the electron and the nucleus of an atom, that's something. There's
it's science. It's scientific something rather than philosophical nothing or scientific nothing compared to philosophical nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the problem with these science communicators.
When you get down that small, space and time don't really exist anymore, and that's where I think they're talking. That's the scientific nothing right there. When space and matter, well, matter doesn't really exist anyway. When you get down to the quantum world, weird things happen down there that screw with your mind.
But it is disingenuous when a creation says, "Oh, look, the scientists are saying it came out of nothing, meaning ex nihilo." That's just completely just so dishonest.
Yep, I see that all the time. Atheists believe the world came out of nothing.
Yeah. When somebody has to ask,
the Bible itself says that no one can understand the mind of God, but for them to follow that book so correct, so distinctly, and then to ignore that part that no one can know the mind of God, they seem to really understand the mind of God somehow.
They're very happy to tell you what the mind of God was, even though they don't understand it.
You got people that are predicting the second coming of Christ, even though the Bible says don't do that.
Yeah.
No man shall know. And they're like, oh, he's going to be here on Thursday at 2 a.m.
There's the whole don't pray in public, and they do that too. So.
Well, you know what?
It was funny. I remember I was in a hangout with some of these creationists, and they were telling us how God was undescribable. And then they went on to start describing what God was. So
yeah,
this undescribable thing is very, you're just telling me a lot about this thing that you can't describe.
Yeah, and that's I said right in the Bible it says that God cannot be understood, or but they certainly seem to understand the mind of God enough to tell us what we should think the mind of God means, or is, or commands us to do, or
exactly.
That's one point I never really understood about all this, is how they can tell me of what the mind of God is when their book that they follow so precisely tells them right in it that you can't know the mind of God, and yet they seem to.
Most Christians that I speak to, though, even here online or in real life, it's a super God of the gaps argument. I hate to say that, but I've never met a Christian who doesn't make the God of the gaps explain it to me. That how did life come from out the earth? How did this happen? How did the universe come into being? And as soon as you hear those questions, and if you can't give them an answer of how it happened, or science can't give them, then they feel justified in believing that their imaginary being is the cause of this particular event. But and when you explain to them that I don't accept that justification, you have to give me more. And this is where Darwin's Deity and the rest of them play at. Where, okay, well, if you can't explain it to me how it happened, then you have to accept my explanation because it works.
But here's the thing.
Like, no.
Yeah.
And Pete, I agree with you, 1,000% agree with you. But what makes it worse is that, look, they're asking people that first of all, I don't think a lot of these questions have answers. At least if they do have answers, I can definitely say that we don't know the answers. But they're asking people that are not even familiar with the questions, right? So they have a double thing that they're. If I ask Heretics questions about cosmology, I don't think she's going to be able to really answer that much about it. She's not going to know the answers. But if I asked Hugh Ross questions about cosmology, he might not be able to answer them anyways because they don't have answers, right? So, but he specifically goes after people that don't even know what the questions are, and then expect them to get some kind of awesome answer. Let me explain to you how the universe got here. Nobody freaking knows.
Well, it's this assumption that if you don't believe in God, then you must think that you know everything, because you could only not believe in God if you knew everything.
Well, okay. It's funny. That's Ken Samples, who I mentioned earlier, and I didn't get a chance to talk about. But Ken Samples uses that same argument. And that's a horrible argument, And I see some other theists to run that same thing too. You can't be an atheist unless you know everything, and if you know everything, the only person that does that is God.
God,
which makes no sense
so
as an
then
argument.
if you,
So God is an atheist.
Yes.
Well, that would be the ultimate in contradictions, wouldn't it?
It would.
God's the ultimate.
Well, God wouldn't believe there's any other gods higher than him, right? So he would be like technically an atheist.
Let me think.
Yeah,
well, no,
but
they don't have to be higher than
if
they
you
just
go-
exist.
Yeah, if you go by the Bible, he obviously believes there's other gods because he's always telling people don't worship the other gods.
Yeah, and if he exists, he believes himself. So then he's not an atheist.
Yeah, he just thinks he's better than them.
Yeah, we see an evolution of God throughout the Bible. It starts out with polytheism and it's monolatry. Yahweh the Israelites were originally Canaanites. They just broke off from the Canaanites. Yahweh is just another form of Baal. Both Yahweh, is just the Lord. But Baal and Yahweh were basically the same God at some point. And it actually says in Deuteronomy 32 that Yahweh is the son of the Most High God, El Yon. So eventually, Yahweh is promoted to the head God, but there's still these other gods.
Yep.
But he sends them down to Sheol, and then eventually, around the time of the Babylonian exile, he becomes the only God at that point. But you can see the evolution of God from polytheism to eventually some form of monotheism. But even Christianity and modern Judaism, you still have angels and demons and Leviathan and Behemoth and so forth. You still have a full pantheon of gods, just like in Greek mythology, which everyone would consider polytheistic. You have Cronus, and he had a son Zeus, and you have Mercury and all these other deities. You have a full pantheon, and in the Judaism and Christianity, you have a full pantheon as well. It's just these religions all just kind of evolved and mutate and take ideas from each other and so forth. And it's a very very human endeavor.
Well, it's trying to answer the bigger questions. It was man's first attempt, and I think that's why science is so attached to religion, because religion was trying to answer the scientific questions. Why, why is there something rather than nothing? Where did we come from? How did everything kind of get to the state that it's at now? And I think science was a convenient answer. Hey, there has to be some purpose. There has to be some reason why things occur. And as people started developing these theories about why things occur, that's when you started getting a split. Well, what's a better way to do it? Then the scientific method broke off. And now we have these kind of two things competing in our schools now, with creation and actual science, where people are still positing this as an answer to the questions that we now have evidence for that's wrong. And that's the battle. Do we just go with their faith, or do we go with the science? And unfortunately, half the country is the science. Since they'll go with the religion.
Why is there something rather than nothing? Because if you can't vote God, because God is something. So why is there God instead of nothing? Well,
but how many Christians would accept that line of reasoning? They would say your reasoning, God was the something that created everything else. There was never anything. It was always something, and he was the only.
Yeah. So we can say the same thing. There has always been something.
There's always been the universe,
except
in some form.
It doesn't include your God. So
yeah. We can just say, why do you need that middleman there?
Yeah.
Ocean's been very quiet. Ocean, I got to take this off here. It's been through over 3 hours, and I got to get going here. But did Ocean want to add something to this? He's been awfully quiet. I've never seen Ocean so quiet. He's even there?
He fell asleep.
I just hate everybody. That's what's going on.
I love your voice, Ocean, by the way.
And you guys gotta watch that Darwin's Greatest Hits. It's hilarious. It's even the stuff he puts up on G-Man.
Is it the one he just put up today?
It's the one that he just put up.
I'll watch it after
hilarious.
this.
Like he even has G-Man trying to speak. G-Man trying to get
the
in.
last one he did, the one that had like Dragmont's glasses all like askewed, and I was on from Troy, and that was Peter O'Toole, has got to be one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen.
That was epic.
I was absolutely
That was good.
away at that.
The Darwin's one's pretty fun. Last one with Darwin's and G-Man's hangout. At the end of it, G-Man is completely exhausted with DD. G-Man saying, "Okay, I've had enough of this stuff."
But you know what's messed up? Because G-Man, they're so committed to Darwin's Deity. G-Man even says, "Oh, I think Darwin's got the best of him." But I hated that he had to go. It's like if you got to kick the fucking guy out your hangout, obviously he didn't get the best of him. You know what I mean? It's just like.
Well, I think even G-Man recognizes
that they feel they can actually compete at this level.
I think G-Man even recognizes that Darwin has nothing to offer. He just will ask the same question 20 times. It's boring. Nobody wants to listen to it. Even G-Man recognizes that nobody cares. Darwin's Deity does not draw a crowd. Let's be honest here. He just doesn't. Most people just want to get him gone because they don't want to have any kind of dialogue with him for good reason. He shuts down a conversation.
Yeah. But if he was to come into this hangout, it would definitely blow up some views. Because, they know the fireworks are going to start. Because you're not going to take his shit. He's not going to take your shit. And you guys are going to be battling it out.
I would never have Darwin's in here for the views. Never would happen. If Darwin's wants to come in because he wants to explain.
I'm not saying you would have him in here for views, but I'm saying if he was to come in here, I would watch, particularly because I would like to see the fireworks. People would. What bleeds, it leads.
But again, he'll just come in and say, justify one of your presuppositions. I mean, that's all he's doing. Justify one of your presuppositions.
That's the whole trick in pony.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which one it is.
But a lot of people that he asked doesn't even know what it means to justify something. They don't understand justificatory theories. They don't know. That's one of the criticisms I had initially with street epistemology is that sometimes maybe people might be more justified in believing something than just using a empiricist approach, right? Instead of some other type of way pragmatically to justify something. But he's asking people to justify things that may not even have justifications. Maybe inductive reasoning doesn't have a justification. I don't know.
Yeah. But the thing, you always need to ask these people, what do you mean by these terms? People just assume they know what these terms mean. Now you always ask, how do you account for X? What does account for mean? Usually account for really just means what is the causal explanation for? Where did it come from? Is basically what it means.
Yeah, when they ask when they want an accounting of logic, they're basically saying what prescribed these laws.
Yeah, where does logic come from? Is what you're asking.
But when you go into these conversations, you are trying to when I have talked to him. I've tried to be charitable and try to say, okay, I understand the words he's using, but again, you eventually, when you understand that he's not being honest, then that's when you got to be hyper vigilant. What does "is" mean? In this particular context, because you know that it's some type of game that he's trying to play.
Yeah, because he's sure the hell ain't going to give you principle of charity.
It's simple, like you just said.
Darwin's Deity will try to scrutinize anything you say, and not give you any principle of charity.
Right. Yeah. If you say one little thing off, this one little thing wrong, he'll jump on it
before you even have a chance to correct yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be like, oh wait, well you just said this, you just said that, Floyd, you just said this, and it's like I'm not done with what I'm saying here, or let me correct that. He doesn't give you any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just not reasonable. But boy, how does this guy get through life? It's just unbelievable.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't killed him. I mean, when you have that kind of attitude in the military, you get your ass kicked a lot. And if you have that kind of attitude in society, you tend to get a beat down every so often.
Yeah.
But this guy probably doesn't act like this in his real life. In his real life, he's probably some old guy, sitting in his basement, and the only thrill in life he gets is coming on the internet and trying to convince people that, the presuppositional argument is something. That's like probably the thrill of his life.
He's one of the last ones that tries it, though. I gotta give him props. He's a holdout, but I mean, most people have abandoned it.
Well, Matt Slick is still on the Bible thumping wingnut, with his whole shit. So,
well, Matt Slick still thinks that deploying halos is a good argument, and yet he doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't see
laws of logic are conceptual people.
Well, remember Ken Hogan did a debate recently, and he pulled out his PowerPoint presentation from 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's got nothing else.
And still used it.
Well, that's why when Bill debated him, he got some of Kent's slides from 20 years ago and marked them up and said, "Here's where they're wrong," because he knew he was going to trot them out.
So he hasn't learned anything in 20 years at all. You know,
he doesn't want to. Dude, he makes
was
a living
spent in
off
the
being
federal
ignorant.
penitentiary, so
yeah,
these people make livings out of that.
years were spent in the federal penitentiary, so he's living 10 years in the past.
But he didn't. Yeah, he didn't bother to learn anything while his time in prison. He has to survive on willful ignorance. You know.
And that's what a lot of these people do. They live off the ignorance of the public. You know, it's like a teacher who's just 3 pages ahead of the students. You know, they're all learning from the same book. The teacher just happens to read, ahead of the students, and makes it appear that he's brilliant. Where he's just a little bit, just a little bit ahead of the people they're talking to. So they basically have they're counting on the public not knowing these things, not understanding, not having any academic training or
just familiarity. You don't have to be. I'm not academically trained in any of this crap, but I like to familiarize myself with it. But again, 4 years ago, never would have been the case. You think
that 4 years ago I would have blind, the mind in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king.
Yeah. Do you think that
how he's running over there?
I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't have told you the difference between an ontological or cosmological argument 4 years ago. I couldn't have told you what I didn't know anything about philosophy. Nothing at all. I had some Boolean logic, but I didn't know anything about philosophy.
Right? That's the beauty of the internet. If you want to learn something, just Google it, and you'll find something where you can just go to Wikipedia to get a very basic introduction to it.
Or AIG.
Oh, AIG. I would have never known what the Clom was 4 years ago.
30 years ago, you would have to go to the library and maybe open up first start with an encyclopedia and read that article.
Britannica, baby. Encyclopedia Britannica was my go-to.
It is so much easier to learn nowadays.
And then I'd be able to look deeper after that.
Oh my God!
When I was in school, I practically lived in the damn library.
I did too, and I've read a lot of books. But I tell you what, if I was a kid nowadays, I would be. Oh my God! I would just be learning stuff left and right because kids learn things easier than adults do. I think. I couldn't even imagine having the internet back when I was 12 or 13. I mean, it just would have been.
I couldn't imagine.
I would have been
I
in
can't
heaven.
imagine what I'd be now if we had the internet back.
I would have had 4
was a
PhDs.
Kid. I'd probably be. I'd probably be some kind of weaponized device or something by now.
I had a thirst for knowledge back when I was a kid.
Take over the world.
Steve, I think that let's real talk here. If the internet was like this when you were at 13, you would have just been masturbating to porn constantly.
Well, that would have been in between studies.
Yes.
Yeah, unlike you, Ocean, I can't do that 24 hours a day.
So when you're 13, yes, you can.
Yeah, Ocean, you've been the most quiet, so I don't know what you've been doing while you've been in here since
Yeah, he's unmuted to talk about porn.
Yeah, it's like this. This is Ocean. It's like
that's.
And then he'll say something really smart, and he'll go back. That's how Ocean. That every time he mutes, I'll just picture in your mind going.
That's the image that I want in everybody's head.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, last
Steve,
night on
you're in my head, Ocean. Yep.
Last night on Rangers Hangout, because he posted the link somewhere public. We ended up with some guy jerking off in the Hangout.
Good Lord.
I was there.
Yes, we got a penis post.
Yeah. That's why I'm running the business account. I have to manually let people in, and so.
Yes. Well, this was just a regular.
I know
that was
Steve. You just have to watch out for the drunken girls.
Back in Nadia's days, there would be people who would just come into the Hangout and screen share pornography in order to get her shut down.
Hey, Steve, that guy the other night, what's his name? Rodney, was he actually a PhD who taught undergraduates in philosophy?
Yeah.
It's like he gave the name of his school. He said he smokes weed and gets high, and then he teaches philosophy to these idiots. I'm like,
he doesn't teach it any longer. He used to. No, he used to teach. He doesn't teach it any longer. He lost his job. He's in bad shape, but he's legit.
Drugs and stuff, or
He used to run circles around me in philosophy.
Because of the drug abuse.
4 years ago, he used to totally run circles around me. But he's it's no big secret. He has severe depression and alcoholism and drug abuse.
Who are you talking about?
My friend Rodney.
Who?
My friend Rodney.
Oh, Rodney.
Yeah.
He came in and credentialed himself.
I was confused. I was like,
I mean, when he's sober, when he's sober, and you want to talk about metaphysics, he'll give you a run for his money. That's for damn sure.
No, I at the beginning it was like he was all right, but then like 30 minutes in, he was lush brain on us, and his camera went wild. I remember we were saying like he looked like he was underwater. His camera was moving so much.
Well, he's going to rehab again for the 20th time, and hopefully this one will stick.
Did you find a flat earther for Aaron Rod kick?
I guess we're going to probably go with. I think we might go with part-time vegan. I have to get a hold of him.
Tex.
What's the one that you've been throwing around?
Well, the double of the year's coming up.
Just convince Tommy Hall to be a
flat earther. Not a stretch, is it?
Anthony Riley.
Anthony Riley. It wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't think he's a Poe. Pillbox is a Poe.
I would love to see a debate between Pillbox and Aaron Ra. I think that would be fantastic.
Pillbox is a huge Poe.
I don't care if he's a Poe. I think it would be a better match.
I think Arcane Logos.
Like he's not a confirmed Poe.
Oh, I think he's confirmed to me.
But like, because I think everybody that's gotten into a tussle with him, he thinks, like, being completely honest, he's never been revealed as a Poe. I think everybody thinks he's a Poe.
He's fallen off the map.
Is it what kind of map? Flat or round?
The Mercator.
Well, if he fell off, it'd have to be flat.
Is it one that that I can put on my table or that rolls around on my table? What kind of map are we talking
I guess somebody in the live chat wants to get Gregory Sanders or Gary Edwards on here. I don't know. I've reached out to so many people. I got a lot of people coming in. I have 2 PhDs coming in the first week or second week of December. Dr. Kenneth Hendrick and Greg Lachey. So that's going to be interesting. They're going to do PowerPoint presentations. One's going to do a half hour on geology, and the other one's going to do a half hour on physics and explaining why young creationism is BS.
I work with a guy that has his PhD in philosophy, and I think religion also. I've been trying to tell him. I've been telling him he should join up on here, and he's a Christian. But I said, yeah, we need more of them.
Well, if everybody in the GDC just brought in one smart person,
decent intellectual people that can actually carry on a conversation.
I brought in a lot of people that I knew from in real life stuff, and people I knew from Facebook and stuff. So, I mean, Rodney, I've known
Steve,
Rodney.
I don't even know if we met on Facebook or Hangouts.
What's that, Ocean?
I don't even know if we met on Facebook or Hangouts.
We actually met in Nadia's room.
Conversation. So what?
I'm pretty sure the first time I've ever spoke to you was in Nadia's room.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I saw you on Facebook first, but I was part of the Great Debate community. I didn't realize it was you running it, or it was your thing. And then you were asking about the morality of being in an atheist room, or saying you were an atheist when you weren't, or something like that. And
right.
I forget. It was on Facebook though. You were like, "Their atheist only room." We were having a morality issue with it, or something like
Vaguely. That. I've been on Facebook for a very long time. I've had these conversations before I joined the GDC. Became part of the GDC thing, but we never did this in depth. I mean, the conversations I had were superficial compared to what we have now. Because I didn't know what I didn't know back then. I was good at younger creationism and debunking that because I knew the arguments. I know them better now, but I still had a decent understanding of them because I used to do it on AOL back in the day.
AOL. You got mail.
95, 94. Yeah.
When I moved in here 2012, I think it was, and my husband still had AOL.
Yeah, that wasn't even an internet. That was an intranet that allowed you access to what they guess was the internet at the time. What was it?
He had it. I think by that time he had DSL under AOL.
Yeah, well, DSO was the thing back then. Now it's crap.
Yeah.
Verizon's email switched over to the AOL service. Verizon used to have their own email service, but they got out of that, and they outsourced it or migrated to AOL. So if you're a Verizon user with a Verizon email address, it's AOL now.
Mm.
Although you still have the Verizon, you still have your Verizon email address, but so I guess it's sitting on AOL servers at this point.
Yeah, we'll find.
Do you guys remember when Hotmail was hot? When everybody had like a Hotmail account?
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, Hotmail. Sure.
Yeah, I still have one.
Yeah.
You still have a Hotmail account? Oh my god!
I have one somewhere.
I still have my very first email address at bigfoot.com. Place called.
Mine was at my.
Dude, I've still got my Hotmail account that I had from before Microsoft got hold of it.
My first email was an Excite account. Do you remember Excite?
Oh, Lord.
Excite, yes.
Not quite as back as far as 95 for Hotmail for me, but it's there.
Yeah. Almost. Well, I think it was 98 when I got
IRQ or ICR or whatever the hell it is, and then you had Yahoo Messenger.
ICQ. I had
ICQ.
I had ICQ, and then I had AOL Instant Messenger for a long time.
I still have ICQ. I just haven't logged into it for like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it's been sooner than 15 years for me, but not much.
I gotta get going on this, guys. So
yeah.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome. I hate to end it. I know people are watching.
Take care.
We got to get going on this. So thanks, Floyd, for coming in at the end and adding to it. Again, we didn't go in deep in this stuff because nobody came in here that I was hoping to come in here to have these conversations. I didn't want to be the one kind of like explaining these problems of induction and all this other stuff and talking about Hume, because it's not an area that I'm that familiar with, just enough to know about the topic. But I was hoping that Nicola would pop in, Sokka or Alex, but you know,
it's humanly impossible.
Dun dun dun. Can you justify that? All right, Heretic, give us last word.
It's impossible.
Go. Heretic, last word. Go.
How can you form a rational thought?
Your name's not Heretic.
Heretic, say something. Say anything. Say anything.
Don't pee in the shower.